Call this meeting to order. Stuart, City Council, to municipal utility joint meeting. Council chambers, tentative agenda, Monday, February 13th, 2023. Let's see. Roll call. Patrick.
Here.
Dolly.
Here.
Morgan. Here. Kava. Here. Renslow.
Here.
Utility board, roll call. Kim.
Here.
Brian.
Here.
I'm here. Shirley.
Here.
And Craig.
Here.
Agenda approval. Need motion.
So moved.
Renslow. Second by Morgan. How you vote? Patrick.
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Morgan. Kava.
Yes.
Renslow.
Yes.
You can go for this too. No, okay.
Main Street marketing.
Okay, the item we have talked about it with the council. Is he gonna be here? No, he's not.
Right on.
Okay, and I think we came to the conclusion to address the utility board of the idea of having someone to do the marketing for the utility too. He's not here to make any presentation, but he made a good presentation to the council last meeting. I don't know if you had the chance to watch it on YouTube or not. You don't. Yeah, we were wondering if the utility would be concerned some marketing to the utility.
How much was it a month, Ash?
How much is that? 1,200.
I thought it started out at 500. He submitted a proposal with that 1,200. That's what I did the council.
And who's doing it?
It was-
I don't understand why utility really needs it when the city's really what markets for the whole community. I don't see where it even really needs marketing.
I'd be willing to watch the presentation, have him do the presentation for us.
That's fine.
You make a good point.
Okay, we can have,
It's more of an economic development thing, just my own perspective.
Well, we have some involvement in that too, so I guess I'd like to see his presentation, but.
Doesn't the city fund that stuff? I mean, the utilities there.
the idea of having full-time kind of thing. So it was discussed last council meeting, we did a good presentation, I can see the utility would like to have a presentation. We can do that, hopefully we'll come to the point that we can cooperate city and utility to having do some more for us.
I think you could push out, like, as far as utilities go, I mean, he could speak on that, like what it would do to benefit the utility
Yeah.
side. But I
That's
think
it.
it would push out a lot of information, and if need be, I mean, maybe there's not, but I think he'd be really good at if there was any information that wanted to be pushed out, or, you know, anything you wanted said, I think that he would be a great asset to maybe in that regard.
I wouldn't mind hearing his presentation, but we already did set up that we were gonna fund the project for the electric downtown, and we've already invested money in that, and that's not anything to do with the city, that's all utility. That's just my point.
I'm not, I'm open to listening as well, but to me, a city economic development, you know,
He's already told us no.
cost of that.
He's already said no.
We can have him come to the
And the
next
city,
meeting.
like you said, the utilities did fund the downtown electric expenses, it should, and that's the utility. Anyway, not to say no, but why, what was the response, why would that be a part?
Matt?
The seat, because I did the budget and it's all spoken for.
I'd just like to say, you know, I'd like to see us maybe get to a point where the council and utilities think of us as working for Stuart as a whole is that if we're working for utilities, we're working on city side. I understand the utilities did fund the downtown electric, which is great, appreciate it. That's not just gonna help utilities, that's gonna help the whole town, So this is something that if the marketing does happen, if people start moving in here, it's not just gonna help the city, it's gonna help the utilities too, because it's gonna bring in customers. I'd like to see that mindset maybe start to take over.
I agree with you 100%.
But everybody's made a valid point, I don't want to discount that either, so I understand everybody's point, so, that's my take on it, so.
So you just want to set it up as a presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have them, I think, the next.
But what would be the proposal, 1,200, so what would it be, 600 a piece? Or
No.
what?
I mean, I wouldn't expect utilities to pay 600 of it a month, only because you guys are benefiting half,
Okay,
just a small portion of it.
so when that comes about, the presentation, the financial disclosure should be there, what the proposal is, right? Yeah, just be a presentation.
It will be up to the utility to decide.
Right, but I mean, there should be an ask, like if is the city wanting to do 1,200, do they have to do 1,200, or, I mean.
I think he said at that one meeting, I think he said it was negotiable.
He said he'd do
That
what
we
we work.
Yeah, we can work with this.
Okay.
He wasn't dead set on that.
Well, I think we have to remember too, when the city of Stuart draws new residents or new businesses to town, utility's gonna benefit from that too, because we get to sell more water and we get to sell more power. So we need to look at the presentation and listen to what you got to say.
It will be on the next.
Okay.
Utility. Good.
Number 3, Mid-America Energy Gas Line. I see you talking on that.
Oh, that's fine. I don't know who's taking it.
Well,
Man,
I can go ahead and speak on it. It's, Mid-America's not really,
You on the microphone?
Mid-America's not really interested in cooperating.
Okay.
They got a tariff agreement that they're gonna stand by. They're not willing to participate.
So it's 350,000, is that what you said,
Yeah, that was,
approximately, to get it out there?
Yeah.
And then if we were to fund it, is there any way to recoup our money back?
They offered $22,000 in energy credits back.
yeah, there's not an immediate return.
And how far did we get with the Iowa Utility Board?
They sent a resolution today, just got it today, that basically they are washing their hands of it. It's up to us to work it out with Mid-American Energy, and Mid-American Energy is going to abide by the tariff.
And what does Dwayne have to say?
He didn't know about it.
Is that going past where like the quick start would come in? Does it go all the way to the residential?
No, that
No,
was
it
just to
wasn't.
get it across the interstate.
And Chip, didn't you say that if we did that, we should be able to recoup a lot of our money when different businesses hook onto this? Or-
From Quickstar alone, you can recoup the money.
Yeah.
So it's a question, does Quickstar need that, or they're gonna come in anyway?
He said you could go with LP or natural, depends on when we get it in.
Seed really lost interest in it because it says we don't, Wade acted like didn't matter one way or the other to him. And we've run into a brick wall in terms of trying to expand south of the Conoco Sinclair station.
Because we're laying them off.
East. Because the landowners just aren't interested in selling off parcels.
Okay.
So we've kind of cooled our heels on it. I think they're a better place to spend $300,000.
Just out of curiosity, Chip, how long would it take to recoup that?
I think it's around 13 or 14 years approximately. That's based on the estimate for what Quickstar will have for valuation, so.
If they use it.
Yeah, that's if they hook up to it or.
You'd have their valuation, property valuation regardless of
Oh,
whether
okay.
they use it.
Oh.
Okay, I understand.
Just property tax revenue
Yeah, okay.
through TIP.
So it's kind of hard, we needed more people out there to get Mid-American more interested, and it's hard to get people out there without it being there, so
Right.
what do you do?
That's one of the things I'd like to say, CDIT analyzed it, again, as a group of people, that is just like yourselves that are analyzing how the city should address its funds as well. And so it's not something that's done nonchalantly. They are just as concerned about the city as you are. So they evaluated all of it. Like we're just like Warren has said, we feel that there would be better ways to utilize those funds.
For sure.
Okay. For sports complex, I've got one comment. I've been talking to Kyle Brondum. Did he ever get back with you, Matt, on the light poles?
He left me a message today.
Yes. Okay, but anyway, our meeting when we set up, what, 150,000, was it, for the
Yes.
sports complex? Pat had suggested new poles, and I said, well, can we use the old ones? I talked to Kyle, and he's supposed to give an estimate on welding another arm, so we both directions when we put the lights in there, and he said, with a brace arm, and he's supposed to come back, I think it'd be a lot cheaper to buy new poles. And then we go ahead and proceed with the lighting for security out there. And what, like say, the city has some money set aside there for that project.
So the city's paying for the whole upgrade? Is that what we came to the conclusion of?
Is there water and electric?
No, I'm asking,
Yeah, that's-
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
They had a meeting and it kind of just
yeah,
left from
hopefully
there.
with those poles, we got cement pedestals, and hopefully the utilities maybe can help get for the concrete.
And then who's putting the poles in? Are we hiring that out or is utility putting those poles in?
Well, if the concrete was in place,
We just gotta figure out what, if Kyle gives a decent estimate, then we can figure out where we're gonna put the poles for security.
Pat, do we know where the wiring is out there?
I think most of it, Dustin would probably be better able to speak to that. He goes out there every day and locates, not every day, but he goes out there and does it. Yeah. That would be terrible if you had to go out there every day. We know where it's all at, don't we?
But the council passed an ordinance a long time ago that if there's not a ball game or something going on and people are out there trespassing, they can fine them or arrest them. Before, there was no ordinance in that clause where anybody could be out there any time of the day. But this way, if we get lighting, hopefully the police can watch the area closer and keep vandalism.
So is it like a park where it would close at say 10:30 if there was nobody out there?
Correct.
Is that how that works?
That is correct.
That's what it
Is it closed up now? I mean, like the gate,
No, there is no gates.
but there's a sign that says it's closed at least.
I don't know if there's actually a park sign there.
So, and.
They renamed it here a while back as a park, and I don't know that it's been signed as such.
My only concern might be after hearing what Vic said, if we're finding people and there's no signage that says this thing is closed at a certain time, we're gonna pay hell for that.
is.
So if that's the case, I'm not against it, but we need to have some sort of signage up there to let people know.
Is that something you can work on, Ash, with Jim, getting a sign up there?
Right, cool.
So let me know if Kyle gets back with you. Okay. Walmart Phase 4 update. Forrest?
So I don't know if everybody, I sent this to Sarah for the packets, I don't know if everybody got that. If somebody doesn't, I've got plenty of copies if anybody wants it.
I don't think the utility board got.
Oh, did you got it? Okay. Well, we'll fix that right up. No, thank you.
I have.
So this is just to give the, for the council, we have an agenda item a little later in the meeting. The council talked about bidding procedures or process. And that's really to have a discussion about, are we doing this as a basically an alternate or bidding together? that's really the discussion for the council agenda item. For this agenda item, I just wanted to let the board and the council kind of know where we're at. I've been working with Seed quite a bit on developing this plan that we're looking at bidding. The schedule would be to, at the next regular council meeting in March, set the bid date, receive bids in April. Construction would happen, utility grading work would be this summer, fall, paving would be in the spring. And a little over a year now, we could start selling or giving lots for homes to start getting constructed middle of next year. So that's the schedule. For the utility side of things, unfortunately, this is all in the REC's service area. Not happy about that, so we've been down the road to try and city and we told no. So there's not a whole lot we can do about that, but we are planning on starting water out to these customers. And so for the water, we'll have extend the water down Northeast Second, that's dead end right there now. We'll extend it depending on if we take the alternate or bid the blue, there'd be water course down all the streets. There'd be, and more importantly, there'll be a water main go down Tibbin Way to White Pole Road, and then we'll extend that water main west on White Pole Road and hook that into the school's water system. So I need to talk to the school board about this, but right now, the school is fed by the water main coming from the west, and that's their only water connection they have. So if something happens to that water main from the west, get a break, school's out of water. So it'd be advantageous for the school to provide a second connection so that if they have a water main break, then they've got another source for water. Helps out the utility as well because we're able to get a better water distribution, better water quality, getting that water kind of looped down Second and White Pole Road. So that's part of the project. That's part of the bid to get that water main looped through there.
Is that the one that just busted not too long ago? Is that part of that one that's gonna run out there?
I guess I don't
Broke
know.
right out in front of Cobra.
Yeah. Same one?
Is that 10-inch main?
Well, it was out here, yeah, but not out at the school, it's not.
But that's not is that the line you're talking about running out there?
Well,
Well, there's already a line out there.
That's where the school line comes from.
That's where the water comes from right now from the school. When the school was built, they opted not to have a loop feed going through there, and now they have the option again.
Okay.
So anyway, that's kind of an update on the schedule, kind of what the project is looking like. Just something I'll throw out there for the board to think about. In the past, there's been, the utility boards had some contribution towards the water main portion of this, sometimes not. I'm not looking for an answer, just something for the board to be thinking about.
Pat, where does our Redfield line go? Does it go through here?
Yes,
It's, well,
Parallel with
it's
that.
parallel with the gas main on that dash yellow line.
Okay.
It's going right through there, yes. And same thing, it goes through All Saints and all that. Yes, yep. And because of the gas main and the water main, the raw water, we can't be cutting the ground down over either one. So we kind of, it's a little challenging to design things, but.
Do we know how deep that water line is, Pat?
like 5 feet.
Okay.
Originally,
How big is it?
How big is it? Sorry.
No pressure.
I think it's about a 10-inch, because when it broke, I was over there.
Yeah,
I think it's.
the raw coming in is 10.
yeah. There's spots over there where it's 8, where it's coming up the big hills.
Oh, yeah.
How old a line is that?
80, mid-80s.
So we're not concerned at all putting houses on top of this thing?
No, there won't be houses on top of it.
Okay, I was gonna say, wow, with that easement through there?
No, we have to stay, there can't be any houses within those yellow lines. That's over the gas line, the high pressure gas and the water. So the lots, you kind of see, the lots kind of get bigger, around that gas main. Even in all things, we go, and Wambold as well, we've crossed this gas line a couple times, and you just have to make the lots bigger and stay away from the easement.
Looks like you got number 1, it looks like it's going right through the middle of that.
Yeah, so the house is gonna be towards the back of that
Towards the
lot.
back.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they put the square to the world, but they decided to go
Right.
across the farm.
Save a little time, right?
Chip, what's the contributions been from utilities in the past? On the thing?
Has it been a third, Ash?
Around 6,000 a year.
And that's not based
Just
on
about.
revenue from, that's not based on expected revenue, it's based on the cost of the line or the.
Yeah, based on the percentage of the cost. When I find out
Water
it will
owns,
be,
I mean, in other words.
Of the water only, yes, water only, not the project.
Where's REC with all of this?
Yeah, as the others, actually REC puts in electric at their cost.
Okay.
And then they get the revenue, of course, it pays back over time. We will have the same kind of street lights that we have in the other places, but in the REC doesn't have to be a big that.
Is there any way you can get the IUB to open up our electric service area?
Yeah. No.
That's a rhetorical question.
good answer, Forrest. Those are set in stone.
That's right.
They never change.
So, with nowadays economy and everything else, is the materials readily available? Water mains and RCP and everything
Yes.
else?
Available. The electrical equipment, on the other hand, is always still hard to get. Transformers, as Pat knows, six
Very
months.
hard. A lot of stuff is 6 months out. When I do find that's available, it's about 3 times.
Well, would you tell us the other night a transformer was about $8,000 before? And now
Well,
it's 25.
you go back 5 years and I was buying transformers, big transformers for about $8,000. And I just bought one the other day for 24. So the cost of goods has gone up tremendously if you can even get it.
Especially on the electrical side. The pipe and concrete and those materials, they're available. And when we take bids 2 months from now, if the bids come in and it's a gazillion dollars, the council at that time can say, time out, let's rethink this.
Mm.
So, I mean, there's no commitment until we bring it back to the council in a couple months, and then you look at those and decide whether to move forward or not. So yeah, there's no,
And at that time, you'd have a more formal approach of what you wanted, or number, what would be, the cost or the contributor participant.
right, that's right, yep. Yeah, we'd have bid items for the water main portion, and then the utility can have real numbers as well. Same as the council, but real bid numbers from contractors and can decide, you could move forward or not move forward, or you can, re-look at things and say, oh, let's just do this part instead of this part. So it's not always an all or nothing thing.
And this water line's like or large enough for future expansion, whatever that would be, whether it be more houses or schools or.
Yeah, so we're looking at an 8-inch main, can't remember what the school has, and then there's an 8-inch main already down Second. So there'd be, for the east side, there'd be, feet from Second and then, through the high school, along Whitehall Road as well. So it was just an update, not looking, it was just, just kind of get everybody up to speed and in the loop and where we're at.
Are they gonna keep that, it's Barley Lane on here, are they gonna keep that open into the loop going north?
Yes. Yeah, so if the road, if that ever develops to the north, then there'd be a connection. That's the idea anyway. Yeah, we never wanna close anything off, allow connection. Who knows, what the future will bring.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Maurice.
Chief, I have one more item I'd like to discuss. So I was contacted and I'm been trying to figure out this insurance thing. Last year, we were gonna get a quote from Town and Country and they didn't have enough time to do it. And now this year, we've asked them to do it again, but for some reason Danielle's having problems getting our declaration pages so she can properly quote us in the insurance.
I think she got what she needed.
No, she didn't. She did not get our declaration pages. And she was told that somebody on the utility board had said no. So I'm trying to
Didn't
figure
say
out,
no.
I'm trying to figure out why she was denied public information.
I gave her everything that I had.
You gave her
I gave her everything I had.
but who has the declaration pages of our insurance?
You do.
I guess called EMC.
It was public record, right?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, it is. I don't know why you don't have them here. I mean, you get an insurance policy, the declaration pages are there. The only reason why I ask is because they can't provide us an adequate quote if they don't know what they're quoting.
Why not? They can come out and measure the buildings.
But that's not fair to them.
What do you mean it's not fair to them?
Because
It's
it's
not
public
fair to our
information.
It
agent.
was public record though.
It is public record, and I
It's no fair
understand
to
that.
our
And I'm
agent.
saying, go ahead and give it to them, and that's what I told
and we gave them what we had.
I know, but she needs the declaration pages. She needs to know what vehicle she's insuring, what buildings she's insuring. I don't know why there's such pushback on this.
I think all she's asking is just who has them, where can you go get them, if that's all. You know, if we
We
have to
give
go
us
back.
what we got.
Okay, but if she didn't get it, we contact to get it.
EMC.
So can someone reach out to EMC and say, we need our declaration pages and get them to her so she can provide an adequate quote?
I think that's all Christine's
Yeah.
asking, is just, can we do this and
Absolutely.
so.
Then, okay,
it's public record.
yeah.
Anybody can get it. I don't know.
As long as I know, it's not a good.
Dusty, real quick, for the council, can you tell them what you guys bought for downtown? Pat showed me that yellow and gray. Just real
Well, they're power distribution boxes, and so they're supplied by a 50 amp cord, and each box has 6 120 volt 20 amp outlets on it, so. And then they can be daisy chained together, you can link them together until get to where whatever distance you're trying to get to. So we bought 4 of those, and about 500, maybe 600 foot of 50 amp extension cord to power these, so we're, they're,
So this will assist in if we have any more celebrations downtown?
yes, and we're able to, they're portable, so you could take them over to the park for say good days, or if, kind of limited until we get pedestals, which are really hard to get for us right now, so, but we're gonna use them. Hopefully the plan was, and that's why we bought what we did, is to handle the barbecue event and good egg days. And if there's another event that would be uptown, that would be
Maybe RBTV again?
whatever it might be.
So just to, and I appreciate you guys doing that, so, with Forrest giving his presentation on Longboard and this all being here, I think part of his discussion too was like, is there anything similar to that you might need out in the Longboard edition? Since we didn't get it done up here, we're having to buy this, is to kind of look into the future. I understand it might not be, we're just kind of be thinking that on the utility side, is there something like that? I don't know what it'd be, because I'm just throwing it out there, is something to think about. So if it is something that's out there for the future, maybe we can have it added in instead of, like we'd have to tear up the streets uptown, right? We put it in before we get everything done.
The only thing you could really do, and a lot of towns do it, is when you put in the street light circuit, you wire it extra heavy. When you get the lights, make sure they have an outlet on.
Yeah, and again, that's not something we have to decide tonight, kind of been thinking about that as well. And I think a lot of that was that intent of having a joint meeting is to say, hey, is this something, what can we think of that we might need? We haven't been thinking of.
Could you pull from that, Pat, if you were, I'm not saying that to do this, but like, there's supposed to be a park or something, right? I don't know, we need something like a gazebo, so what, but could you pull from that if you want to pull in that?
Out here at the Wumble.
Yeah, or in the next 17 phases.
Typically, when they put in a streetlight circuit, if there's no mention of anything else, they put in wire that's just heavy enough to carry the streetlights. And nothing else.
And we don't maintain anything, streetlights that are outside of our.
Those aren't even on our.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's-
Right, I was just wondering, because like saying, I mean, I've seen it in other cities in towns where they have a gazebo type thing, there's power there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying we will ever have one, but would we have that potential?
We have a gazebo with power uptown.
Right.
Yeah, and again, it's just something to think
It would be hard to. get
outside the
power.
box to say, hey, it's
I'm
with the
thinking if we had
speeds
that, could you
type thing and get it in there prior to us having it.
Yeah,
So,
need that the closest.
Depends on how far you gotta go.
I showed Pat, I was on the panel the other day, and they had a GFI on the bottom of every pole, but he said that depends on how much power. It wasn't factory, they just added it in there, power down.
If they put in a heavy enough wire to get
Then
it.
you're okay.
Yeah. Most of it downtown, we didn't, it's lightly wired, just enough to carry the street lights.
it's something to consider.
Is that what a lot of towns do, like Christmas lights, but you won't have to use those two
Right,
that go.
yeah, I mean, there is an outlet on the poles, but it's for, basically just Christmas decorations. And the outlet's about 15 foot in the air, so that makes it really unusable for most occasions. It's something that can be done. It's hard to redo it after it's been done, because we're tearing out sidewalks and everything else. And even if you could get into the conduit, they didn't put in big enough conduit, put in big enough wire, so it's hard to go back and redo it. We kind of ran into the same problem over there at the Pocket Park. I know everybody wants light there on that structure, but it's hard to go back and do it after the fact, after all the concrete's poured.
Since I have the utility board and council here, I just want to ask, possibly, we've only got 2 city employees that move snow. If the city employees, the utility employees walk up and there's snow on the sidewalk, if they could help take care of it. I realize if they snow an hour later, it could be filled, but another day, there's numerous tracks through the sidewalk. If somebody slips, we're liable. These guys are busy on the streets and sidewalk. We're in the process of hiring a third person, and I don't know how soon that's gonna happen. Yes, Matt?
I have witnessed utilities helping with some of the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Okay.
I've even seen Matt Funk out there in his
Yeah.
student power.
Okay.
We normally clean off the police department sidewalk and all that, and we don't normally come up this far, but.
Got it? Oh, go ahead, Kim.
Are we having public forum?
There isn't, we could.
Okay, cause there's a couple here that would like to talk and give a big thank you to a couple of the guys.
Okay.
Glenn and Cheryl? My name's Cheryl Woodard, and I want to thank Dustin and Joey very much because they basically saved my husband's life about 3 weeks ago, he was out when we had a lot of snow, and he was snow plowing the driveway. And I'm disabled and I can't go out there with him, so I had no idea what was going on until my dogs started, ruckus. And once they wouldn't calm down, because they do that sometimes for no reason, I went out there and we had snow and ice on our deck, so all I could do was hang on to a post, and there was somebody in my driveway not knowing who this person was. And I'm going, what's going on? And they're going, there's some guy out here in the street. The post and looked around, and there it was, my husband laying on the ground, not moving. And about that time, the ambulance people got there, and it was Danny that was the paramedic at that time. And I'm just yelling from the deck going, is he breathing? And they're going, yes, and he's talking. And I personally thought he was having a severe asthma attack because he has bad asthma. What we found out when he was taken to the hospital is it was his heart. So those two people literally saved my husband's life. And I can't thank them enough, because we're getting ready to celebrate 40 years of marriage, and if they hadn't saved my husband's life, we wouldn't be celebrating that. And I can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would also thank the cop that locked up the street so the paramedics could get there. That she was there right away, and I want to say thank you to the cop who was there faster and got there and did block off the street. If it wasn't for these guys out going down my street, I don't know where I would be at today. But I just want to say thank you guys for all your hard work and saving my life, because I was really down. And I really do appreciate everything that these guys have done. They did save my life. So I just want to say special thanks to them. And they were there at the right time, and I cannot say enough about them. So thank you again for what you did for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good job.
Board is adjourned.
Thank you.
Yours is probably way cut, right?
I just didn't want to say, thank you, guys. Thank you for everything. I mean, if it wasn't for you.
There you are, I want to catch you. I said to Pat, I told him my idea of right now. You guys just work out. Yeah, that's in well. I think it's pretty real important. I spent my life studying.
I was at the hospital. I got home, our driveway was clear. And he goes, who did that? I go, well, it sure wasn't me, because I was trying to make everything good. You guys were on the ball.
I don't know how long we was for.
I feel like I don't remember that day. It's really, I just remember you guys well, there's about 3 years old, so
Yeah. It's that main
I knew where it was, I just didn't know if it was. Is somebody giving us these grades? Eventually we'll get reimbursed. Yes.
What's the point in there?
I don't know how I looked at you guys, but
What's the matter with it? I don't know.
I've been back 3 times now for the exact same thing. They had and every test, we haven't done. They're waiting.
Call this meeting to order, Stuart City Council candidates, Monday, February 13th, 2023. Call to order, Patrick.
Here.
Dolly.
Here.
Morgan. Kava. Here. Renslow.
Here,
Need a motion to approve the agenda.
so moved.
By Renslow. Second by Morgan. How do you vote? Patrick.
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Morgan. Kava.
Yes.
Renslow.
Yes.
Okay. For town cleanup, Robert Cook.
I'm Bob Cook. I'm here on behalf of myself, my brother Dick, and Molly Dolce, who runs the FFA Voc Ag program here at our local West Central Valley Schools, seeking approval to have another town cleanup in May 5th and 6th this year. We've done 4 of them, 2018, 2019, and then the FFA people jumped in for 2021, 2022. They've been well received by the public. They've got a lot of trash out of this community. Thanks to Molly Dolce's effort, she took 2 mountain loads of appliances out of this community at no cost to the consumers, to recyclers. And that was an extraordinary deal. And the replace for scrap metal, it helps offset some of this. It's been so well received. We were able to help senior citizens. We'll do it again this year. We'll pick up for those incapable and or senior citizens. And there were homes with past fire chiefs where things were picked up, school board leaders. Everybody that goes through this, hopefully becomes a senior citizen, maybe needs a little help. So it's been real well received. We actually changed the date first proposed to fit with what Corey Geisinger needed because he was going to be gone the last weekend in April, so we moved it the first week in May. It went well last year. There was not a hit. Kids are all excited to help again, which is a real blessing. Mike Cabo is one of those that went through the work the first couple times when we didn't have those kids, and it was tough. So I'm just seeking approval for us to do it again this year, 2023 town cleanup.
I would move that.
I'll second it.
Moved by Kava, second by Renslow. How do you vote? Patrick.
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Morgan. Yes. Kava.
Yes.
Renslow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
One last quick thing. Somebody had a question. Oh, one quick thing. Kind of as a town historian, I go through more records of town council meetings than anybody. And I just want to commend all of you folks that ran and set and do this. Because you're doing 4 times the amount of work, giving 4 times the amount of time. The complexity of the issues are so much greater than they were 40, 50 years ago. So I just want to say thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, 5. City budget maximum $10. At this time, I open the public hearing. Did you receive any comments, concerns from the general public? Close the public hearing. Number 23, A2C, approving.
So moved.
By Renzo. Second. Second by Dolly. How do you vote? Patrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Yes. Bubba?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
Six, 2023, 2024, proposed budget, set the date, what, that was March what?
March 13, next week. We need a motion to set the date for the public.
Made by Morgan, second by Bubba. How do you vote? Patrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Yes. Bubba?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
The only thing I want to mention, I want to talk about is the state, as you probably are aware of, the state is doing a lot of talk about the rollback for the residential area. We might have a lot of changes, but so far we don't know what's going on. So we don't know really what's gonna be the result. If they pass it, it will be a little bit of valuation going lower than what we got. If they don't, it's gonna stay the same. We were instructed by the Department of Management to continue doing what we're doing, just move on with the process. If there's any changes, any change of the process, I'll let you know. Okay.
7, trees for kids. I meant to give this to you, that's just general from some other community planted slugs of trees.
Oh. So I'm often like looking just for ways for grants or things for my programs, or honestly, a lot of my stuff overlaps between when I work at the school and the community. So I came across this grant. Honestly, I thought it would just it's through the DNR, and it's called Trees for Kids. So it's a huge education component, which I guess we'll tell Molly Dolce again. I talked to her, and that would be where I'd be getting some of the high school kids from, would be the FFA kids. I told some of the kids I work with out there. Really, I talked to the Cub Scouts, so maybe we get some of them out there. That's a huge part of it, is the kids are actually the ones that are planting the trees. It literally says you can't use their city workers, so getting some labor and getting some kids. They also have some education of, they're gonna learn through the DNR how we plant and care and the benefits of our community. And also, if you've been out in the soccer complex, I think Corey told me we lost 50 trees out there, 60. So there's probably, I can count on my hands how many are left. So that would be the benefit, obviously for the city. Reason I'm here is it's a reimbursable grant, so it's not a grant I can apply for with my programs, because I don't have the ability to float $2,500 so the DNR would reimburse. So how it works is we apply to be the grant. If we're accepted to the program, we have to fulfill the program, basically we have to plant the trees. And then if the DNR says, hey, you've done what you're supposed to do, they will then reissue a check. So I'm seeing if the city would like me to apply for that, I'm happy to do that, run it. The kids, if we get accepted, it's just we have to pay for the trees up front, and then basically once they're in the ground and DNR is satisfied, they'll get the city back the check. And these would all go to out of the sports complex? Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot. This is, I'm working with Timber Pine along.
Thank you.
And this is kind of what they gave us. There's, just obviously to avoid an ash borer issue, you can't have more than 3 of the same species. So this is what they came up with, what trees, it'd be about 27, and they're good size. They're in 5 to 7 gallon root balls, so.
You're not anticipating going over 2,500, but if you do, I mean.
That is the quote, because it only pays for trees or mulch, but we're gonna use city mulch for free, so that's, you don't have to pay taxes on that, that's part of the program as well. So, everything else we'll have to just kind of DIY, get shovels and gloves and round up that stuff.
And you would work with Jim on placement?
Where he would want,
Placement out there?
Yeah, so that's basically, I guess, is kind of a good program to run with school kids, and then also it would hopefully liven up our soccer fields a little better.
Need a motion. Yeah, Carl.
I'll second it.
Second by Renzo. How do you vote? Patrick?
Yep.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Yes. Bubba? Yes. Renzo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I planted 18 trees out there, but the whole key is after they're planted, we gotta find people that water them all the time for the first couple of years. Okay, 8, Public Work Director, Jim Henderson, mowing bids.
You should all have copies of the 3 mowing bids received for the city mowing for the year. Had, first low bid was TCB Lawn Care for $17,500. Second bid was M Garden Mowing for $17,900, and then Madison Lawn Care at $22,000.
I strongly suggest we go ahead giving out the mowing bid because we have 2 employees right now. We're working on getting a 3rd one. But between the call time these guys got and mowing, the cost of benefit package.
The third employee will be a permanent part-time employee to start with,
How close do you think you are on that?
within 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
And I think we asked once before that, if we do the bids now, this would be good for a year. And then after that.
We'll reevaluate.
Okay, all right.
That's my game plan, is to reevaluate after this season and see where we're at.
The insurance that he provided, we need to know, maybe go back and ask him if, what's he have? Is it $1 million? Is it $2 million? What's he got
It's the same policy that would be in effect for the cemetery.
for the cemetery?
Yes.
And we do have that on file.
Yes, we do.
Do you have a recommendation, Jim?
Yeah, I would go with the low bid simply for the fact that that individual has mowed these properties for like 7 years.
Oops. Sorry.
Where's this money coming from, actually? Does this come out, that doesn't come out of their budget, does it?
It does.
It does, yeah.
And that's the idea of having about filling up part time instead of full time.
Okay.
Try it out and see.
Yeah.
Succeed if it continues, not to go back to the full.
Gotcha.
And the idea is to have somebody doing the mowing where Jim and Corey don't have to jump off their regular work. And this guy's strictly gonna mow here, and if we do get a 3rd employee, then they can work training the 3rd employee.
Sure.
The advantage to this for this year is with the 3rd person hired, we can concentrate our training on, I mean, let's face it, after a little while, anybody can run a lawnmower. This gives us the opportunity to train these people in the wastewater collection system, the treatment system, you know, concrete, everything else, instead of pulling them off 2.5 days a week to ride a lawnmower.
And we need a motion.
I'll make that motion, that we contract with TCB Lawn Care.
Okay, moved by Kirkpatrick,
I'll second.
second by Dolly. How do you vote? Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Dolly,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Kavah,
Yes.
Renslow,
Abstain.
B. What Cole Road update?
Well, that was brought up, I guess, after I had left the last meeting, so, I brought the 2 guys with the no. I have Josh, the Guthrie County engineer, and also Forrest here. So, any questions? They'll be the
County
ones,
supervisor.
they'll be the ones to answer.
County supervisor. We got all the no.
So where we kind of at with that? I mean, do we have a plan? Do we have an idea? What are you thinking? Maybe Josh, I'll put you on the spot.
All right, I can do that.
Yes, there's, in the works, we have design, analysis. We've been looking the road over and looking, and, we've contracted with, Forest and Reinsford and Kim to analyze White Pole Road, all of it, and also P28. We kind of started off on, let's get it going, but then we thought, before we contact everybody and really get this, stirring, let's figure out what's going on underneath these pavements. So we're going to do about 4 different sampling methods to analyze what is going on underneath the pavement. Is the foundation good? Is what's under the pavement good and solid? And so that's gonna include ground penetrating radar, a falling weight, so the drop of weight measures the deflection of what happens. Also coring, taking samples of what's underneath. So there'll be a variety of methods to corroborate, and figure out what we got under there to analyze, to get the best solution we can. Could just be a mill and fill, but I also don't wanna throw good money at bad either. You know, it's not like putting a good roof over a bad house kind of thing.
So there's different avenues that we could be taking on this, depends on what the results are.
Yeah, we're gonna let that data come in. Right now, we're scheduled to do that in May and June. Didn't wanna go too early and have false data from the spring soft ground. Also didn't wanna get too late and have artificially hard data either. So try and shoot the middle of the gap there and get solid data.
Is P28 just from 10th Street north, or is it all along?
We're doing from city, up to Monteith Road.
Okay,
From 10th Street north.
okay. Well, what's with our panels on Division?
Same thing, every one of those panels is tipped.
Tipped, okay. That's-
Same thing that the county is experiencing going north.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're experiencing.
I believe that was poured by the same contractor.
So in the same thing, the last time when we left off at this, we were gonna do a temp fix versus a permanent fix. And when we were talking about that, the county was coming up with what would look like as a policy of some sort, and you were gonna draft that
Yes.
as far as costs. And then I never did follow up to see where you guys, because I thought it was 50% would be 50% of the Guthrie County part, right?
Yes, and that, and then we,
Of the road bed.
of the main travel portion.
Correct. 50% of that north side.
Right. And that was Fort Dodge asphalt, and they ended up turning it down, is that what took place?
No, They got too
late
to
They got too
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
what happened was it got too late in the season, so we pushed it off.
Yeah,
And then we were kind of waiting for some additional information and we voted not to do it,
yes,
which in my opinion, I think this whole road project's been going on for like 10+ years. I know it was discussed prior to me coming on the council. And we had a temporary solution, which, yeah, it doesn't fix it, but it benefits the citizens of Stuart that drive on there. I drive on there, I don't know about anybody else, but I drive on there, and I'm thrown around like the ruts, you know? If the county wants to go and look at stuff, fine, that's fine. But as far as us on the city council, I think we have to look at how do we, I mean, Jim, you spent how much time out there taking pictures, you know, and showing the state that the road was in. And that's why 2 years ago, at least 2 of us on here voted for that temporary fix before we, for some reason, said, let's not do it. So even if we did the temporary fix, put that in there, smooth it out, so it's not filling up with water as much. That's not gonna hamper you guys from doing your tests, right?
no, we would probably have all that done at the contractor.
Before we were gonna have a temporary fix even in place.
But aren't we throwing money away by, I mean, we're this far in the game, and if the county, I mean, everybody's coming to the table. We all recognize that something needs to be done. At some point, we need a 2080, correct? With Guthrie, Adair, and Stuart, so we know who's gonna pay for what. And we just need to continue to work together. And I know that Josh has spent some time with Jim fixing up some spots out here on the highway, correct?
Yeah,
There's been a couple bad
we've done some
spots.
grinding and stuff to get the water off of the road in the worst spots. Part of the reason that the temporary fix was pushed off was because we were looking at a sooner engineering project and a sooner construction project, but after more thought was put into it and the different methods of checking that underbed, that's what's pushed things back a little bit.
So this is probably gonna, you know, let's say, you say it could be a simple mill and fill. And if it's not, You know, we could be looking at, what,
24, or 24 construction.
but I mean, like, what kind of a cost?
Like, probably double that or better.
That's all gonna depend on where those numbers turn us. If it's subgrade bad and we're looking at full reconstruction, it's gonna be happy.
Okay, few million, maybe,
Yeah.
a few million. So we could wait to get everything done and hope that it comes back as a mill and fill, hope. Or we could proceed with the temporary fix, it's fixed, because in between the city limits, that's our responsibility ultimately, isn't it? Does the city have the say as what happens in there? It's not a county road, is it?
No, county still has participation. It's a farm to market extension, so the county has split jurisdiction.
Okay, okay. So you could tell us.
We've talked about
fix
this
it?
before.
You can't.
Yeah, it's, not sure it's 100% well defined in the code, but the county does have influence, I would say.
But we also have to think that we're working with 2 county engineers, because our road is split in half. So we have to work with the Adair engineer, we have to work with Josh, and then Jim, and I
So
think Forrest.
my only concern is that 2 years ago, you were for this temporary fix. You were one of the council people that voted for the temporary fix. And now we're like, let's push it off some more.
So here's why I was for it. I was for it, and we've discussed this before, because we had county participation, and I'm asked for a contract to be put in place for the short-term fix. And you and former council member Belvin told me no. You said it was not worth the attorney money to put a small contract together to make sure that all the parties came to the table and everybody was set in stone on what they were paying. Everybody just wanted to wash their hands of it. And so we didn't get it done. And it went by the wayside from there, and then they continued with the final fix. That's what happened. So I'm just saying,
So you voted for it?
I did vote
Then
because
where's
it was a fixed end, but we're so far down the road now,
We're not down the road.
we're closer to a permanent fix than we are a temporary fix.
We have signed agreements for the testing.
What's that?
We have signed agreements for the testing with Reedstone County.
Okay, well, that's between you guys, right?
Well,
I mean, I understand where you're
we're
coming from.
planning,
You know,
we're planning to involve Stuart's portion.
So what happens if they bring it back to the council and they say, hey, your share is $4 million? In 2 years. Now remember, you're gonna have people driving on it for possibly 24, not for sure, it could be 25. Could be, maybe, possibly, you don't know, we don't know, right? I mean, so it could be 25, but even another year, you know, you got people driving on it.
So,
But I think this, and help me out, Josh, I'm an engineer by no means, but I think the slurry fill is not gonna make everything level.
No.
No, there's some big real ruts in there, so it won't be 100% level going the slurry route.
No, because he had said it would settle.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's a water oil mixture, and as the water comes out, it goes down.
so we're still gonna have a little bit of real ruts in there. You know, and if we spend $180,000 on it, we still, at the end of the day, we still have real.
We're gonna come in and tear that $180,000 out, possibly within 18 months.
But I guess my opinion, is we do the testing, see what we're at then. And if it's way too much, then we might have to go back to what the council discussed about doing. I don't think we can do anything, my opinion, back, and let's see what avenue that we need to take. That seems fair to you too, Mike.
Is that your
You're gonna have to be
Well,
involved.
that's where we're at too, and that's why we're doing the study. I mean, we got, what, 8.5 million to do Whitehall Road and a bunch of P28. We have to see a study to see how far we can stretch that money, you know, I mean.
I'm gonna say, how much would that 8.5 cover like?
Well, it all depends, like, some of that, we're hoping we can just do asphalt overlay on, and then you can get by half the cost of new construction concrete.
So I know we looked at that back in 21. We had Forrest look at an asphalt overlay, and Guthrie County said, that's when you guys had said you'd give us 30,000, but you weren't gonna give it to us for an asphalt overlay.
Well,
So
if your asphalt overlay, you go out there and do it now, if that base isn't any good, that's gonna last you a year or two. And you just spent $300,000 for that, where
yeah, you might have to spend 600, 700,000 for new construction concrete in there, but it's gonna be there
Here's
for 10, 15, 20 years.
Here's an example for you. If you go uptown and look at the 2 blocks of North Second, the project, they came in, they did a very thin mill and an overlay. Go uptown and look at that. It'll tell you what's gonna be an asphalt overlay on this. You can see every street crack that crosses that street that were there before.
Yeah, and I get that, I just, the previous council, was trying to work at getting something done, and here we just keep kicking it down the road continuously.
Well, we got the wheels turning. I mean, and if we get
Contract
this study
place.
done, I mean, I think Guthrie County's ready to, bid it here. Probably, once we get a study back, we could probably bid it next winter and be doing construction then in the next year. I mean,
And Chip, where does that put you financially coming up with options?
It really just depends where the cost comes out.
Okay.
And how much the city pays, how much the county pays.
Okay.
It'll evolve based on that.
And Jim, what's your recommendation?
I've been working with Josh and discussing this with Forrest as well, and I would personally just like to know what's under there before we go any further.
I wonder how, sorry, but how long, because I know when we were getting bids, or when we got bids for the slurry or the asphalt, or whatever we were gonna do for temporary, they were really busy. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was
Isn't that right?
September. It was
So I do
September.
wonder, I mean, I'm not saying we need to put a plug in there here about it, but if these tests come back and we have to pay a boatload of money, and then we wanna maybe look at a temporary thing, I don't know if it'd be a good idea to reach out, or how soon we would need to put that in place, because it does us no good to put that in place outside of before this fall, right?
Correct.
I mean, we would want to have that down before we plow.
That's what we ran into last time, was just the temperature was a lot of it. By the time they got us into their schedule,
Too late.
the temperature was too late, yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see, like, I don't know what companies see, but even to see if it's
Are you
how
saying,
bad
so,
they are.
I don't know, are you saying like you would have ask Forrest to go get bids and see when they could be done, or? Forrest
I'm just
doesn't-
saying, I don't know if I don't want us to be too late to have that in our back pocket. So if June comes around, when we get these results back, if it's too late to get a company in here for a non-permanent fix, a temporary fix, are we in the same thing again, where we go another year, we have no clue how we're gonna finance this thing,
Well,
and we have no temporary solution?
Forrest, if we say we sent this out for bids and said we're looking at work in like July, I don't know how this works. Can you get bids and then, hey, the county came back and said they're gonna pay 100%, we're good with it, right?
And I don't want
Thank you.
I'm agreeing that like we wait for the testing before we even make any decisions. I just wanna
But I
be
would,
proactive.
I would rather have something, like you said, as a safety net, and could we get
Well-
bids and say, wait until July or something for a resolution that the companies do that, or can they stuff like that?
Jim has something to say.
Once your testing comes back, and then you're going to have a period of time in there that it's gonna take Forrest to put numbers together, working with the county and stuff, so it's not gonna be okay, we got the results back, this is where we're at. They're gonna have
So we're
to
not
take
even
bids
looking
and stuff to know where numbers are gonna come in.
We're not even looking at this year of getting
Well, we
anything
don't
done.
know that until we know what's going
I
on.
think we do, because if you don't get back in June,
So-
then it takes a while to get bids and stuff.
I'd like to make a motion just to table this until June.
I'd like to
And
have Chip come up and
I'm
talk
sorry, I
about the
was
financing
making a
first.
motion.
Well, we
I'd
have
like to
Chip
have
on-
make a motion
we
to
have Chip on
continue.
the agenda.
Can I make my motion now?
You make it.
I'd like to table this until the test results come back and then revisit it to know what our options are.
Yeah, I think even with, I don't even think, even if we wanted a temporary, it probably wouldn't happen this year. Because most of the letting's already been done, and those guys, all the contractors are probably booking spots now.
Chip, or not Chip, but Forrest.
For a slurry seal, it's not a big project, we could get quotes for that. Now, the The issue is they're gonna want a contract. So we could go out for bids and get it for the slurry seal, but they're gonna want a contract that it's gonna happen and they're gonna get paid. You can tell them to start after July, but I hate to go to a contractor, come back, you sign a contract with them, and then they're planning on doing it in July or August, and then we break the contract like we did with Fort Dodge before. Fort Dodge Asphalt was very nice to us because they weren't able to do it in the fall to allow us out of that contract, but not all contractors are.
Sure, and I think that was kind of what you were asking.
Yeah, I was just wondering if like, I mean, maybe the timing wise it wouldn't work out. I mean, as far as like getting those, just trying to be proactive just in case crap is the fan, you know, but maybe we are too late to the party for this year.
We'd be okay doing it, I think, still this year for a slurry seal, but they'd want a contract.
If, we're not too late if we did it, right?
If you did it, yes,
If we
but
did.
if the results come back from the tests and slurry seal is gonna be a waste of money, then now we've got this contract and.
Right.
So.
And just looking at for this, just kind of playing devil's advocate. So let's say it comes back, it's gonna be about $1 million, share it's gonna be, say, 4 million. Just throwing numbers out there, kind of worst case scenario. Does that put us in any kind of complication for like Womble? It's gonna affect us
I
somehow,
think
isn't
you
it?
wanna know both costs before you were to proceed on any
I
street
mean,
project.
it's gonna, so you gotta look at something. Do you wanna spend 4 million or however many, whatever it is, on a road that doesn't really generate anything for the city? You know, most of the traffic that's causing these ruts, from what I see, is the trucks taking product through the city. Okay, we don't have citizens driving 18-wheelers up and down the White Pole Road, but we're taking on 50% of 50%, so we can provide a safe route for other people to drive their trucks on that. If we come in with a high number, it's not your guys' fault. I understand that, you know, it's simple bidding and stuff. But if we come in there, what else are we gonna complicate on that? You know, I mean, it's easy for us to sit up here and mortgage everybody in the city to say, hey, let's do this, you know. Would I like to see a permanent, not a permanent, I'm not gonna say anything's permanent, because if it was, you'd be out of the job with the DOT to take care of the interstate. We'd have pristine interstates. For a fix that if it's $3 million, you know, in 10 years, you might need to do the road again, and we're just paying off the bond. You know, so that's something to consider. Do we want to do this for 10 years, and then in 10 years we're renewing that? They have to fix it again. You know,
I don't know because we don't have testing results back.
I hope it's longer than 10 years.
I do too. I do, but the I think, you know, you never know. I mean, we push a lot of time down. And I'm not saying, you know, the testing isn't important. You know, it's just that we're going to be going another year.
Yeah, I understand.
With the road that's just been kicked down continually year after year after year. You know, and I think funding on it, Chip, right now, I think we're okay, because it's in our urban renewal, so we could use TIF if we want.
It's in your plan, correct?
Okay.
If you were to do the slurry, the city has cash to pay for that.
Right, right. It's not gonna affect our levy.
No, because it's cash funded.
And we wouldn't have to certify for any additional TIF funds.
Correct.
On that. So we're really, you know, we're not hurting ourselves as far as the cash goes on it for the project. And then we'd actually have something done. Instead of sitting up here going, well, let's kick it down the road.
Or we spend $180,000 for nothing.
And I don't wanna talk, sorry, Jim, and I don't wanna talk for the supervisors, but they're probably not gonna be willing to come to the table just if they're gonna do the long-term fix. They're probably not, you probably won't do that, but that's what I thought. So then we're eating the whole cost.
Yes, we've had that discussion before.
And we have the funds available to do that without.
But then how much more is it gonna cost to tear it up?
Well, it's just that your city engineer has told you that once the testing comes back, you still have time to seek bids to do a slurry seal, if that's what we choose to do.
For this year, we could.
for this year.
I guess that's what I was
That's what
asking.
he's-
And that's what he
That's
just
what he's
said.
saying.
Oh, is that what you said?
Oh, I thought
Yeah, that's what he said.
I thought you were saying like if we did it now, we'd have time.
No.
Right, that's what I was,
You're-
thought you
you're-
said, if we took bids now, then we could say we could wait till July, but,
Last time we took bids and we got quotes in September,
right.
they ran out of time. If you did it in July, it depends on if they're booked or not for the rest of the year. I can't predict if they would have time in July or not. This small of a project, most likely,
Yes.
they would, but like what Councilman Kirkpatrick says, it's kind of hard to know in the summer what everybody's workload is.
So with that being said, I think I'll second that motion just to let them get the testing done and see where we're at.
Okay.
So the motion is to what?
Table it until June, or whenever the test results, May or June, whenever the test results come back, table it till then. And then Jim and Josh can come back and let us know what those test results are, and then we can decide what we wanna do from there.
Is that a solid May or June?
Yeah,
That's solid.
Yes, for the testing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll concentrate on the section of White Pole Road, Josh, if that's
Yeah.
okay, to be able to get answers to the council on this particular stretch.
Just so we can get funding and, know where we're looking at.
Yes.
Know if you're looking at a mill and relay, or if you're looking at a complete replacement.
Because we also have the drainage issues that we have to consider also.
That's correct. And that will be engineered into the project, correct, Forrest?
Yes, I would recommend that. We could go and do those drainage improvements right now, but then all of a sudden a permanent fix is something different and we're having to change some
Right,
of that.
but I'm just saying we've got that on top of it, so.
Okay, moved in second, how do you vote? Patrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yeah.
Kavah?
No.
Renzo?
Yes,
Thank you, Josh.
thank you, Josh, thank you, Mike,
Josh, did
thank
you
you,
want to
Jim.
talk about?
Yep.
You want to,
Do we really want to?
I don't,
or do we already have an agreement?
I don't think we have a current 28E. I think where we left off from our meeting was, is that Josh was drafting your policy. You guys wanted to come up with a policy, and you were drafting
It's in
it.
our policy.
That we do, yes, that we do a 28E, so that's something that we have to I don't even know who is our county right now. Yeah, and then they can contact Dwayne and get that done.
All right, thank you.
Josh,
See, before proposed budget drainage.
Mayor, Josh has one more item about White Pole Road.
Not to throw gas on the fire here, but,
Oh, it's all right.
The DOT, or the state legislature passed a bill last year creating an all systems permit. So in effect, it takes the governor's fall proclamation that allows for increased loads for harvest and makes that open to all freight and all year, covered under a permit. It's a $500 permit available all year, and it's supposed to be more of a statewide system. All eligible, embargoed bridges and stuff are still embargoed, they still can't cross them. The state is pushing hard for counties to get involved, so we started looking into what's the involvement. And the cities have the same option. It's an opt-in or opt-out, and you can opt in and select certain routes, which is what the county is proposing to do right now. Cities would be the same way. So should Stuart want to opt in, he would select whatever roads he wanted.
Can you expand on what you're saying there? What do you mean we could select whatever roads we wanted? Just so.
Yes, the DOT is administering this permit. Everything goes through them. And they have a map that shows the trucking permits, where they can go and where they can't go. Right now, Guthrie County has not given an answer, so we're to be determined. But we are going to participate. And right now, what we're targeting would be the ethanol plant road, Talon, west, Highway 25. because we didn't know if Stuart was gonna be involved or not, so we were gonna open up our road to your city limits and then said, here you go.
I guess I'm just not following, it's like.
Who
you
gets the
said-
money for,
So,
the permit?
So $500 per permit.
Who gets that 500?
75% is redistributed. I don't know if cities are going to get any or not.
Okay, we
Counties.
can allow the council to answer it. To opt out, you don't need more trucks in the town for no even a dime.
Right.
but here's my thing too with that, he says more trucks, she said we could designate what roads.
Right.
What do you need?
So
I thought we couldn't change this because it's farm to market. If we say, hey, you gotta go out here and then go
It's a
around.
weight limit.
only for this permit. This,
Well, that's what I mean.
this permit allows them to go up to, I think it's like 15% over standard.
I think it's 12. 12.
Yes, 12%. Yes, 12%, you're right.
So it's just for, if somebody had that permit, we could tell them which road to use.
Yes. And that would be on their map.
And you're not getting any dime out.
And we don't get any
There's
money
not,
out of it.
not a lot of incentive from road managers to do this.
But
That's
that's
financially,
Possibly.
financially.
If you guys have them come up
You have to have a wait
Stewart
station.
Road, they.
well, you would basically have to, you'd have to go on the honor system if they're gonna honor their thing, because, you know, we don't have any way to monitor if they got a permit or anything,
There's the enforcement issue as well.
you know, on there.
Yes.
And
Do we know what Adair County's done?
They are evaluating all of the bridges before they.
So both, because we're stuck in between two counties.
It is,
so.
yes.
What does the county get? Do you know what percent?
For funding,
Yep.
all of the money goes into a pool, 75% of that is taken out and distributed amongst counties. I don't know if cities involved. We did some quick calculations at a meeting a month ago. It's like 10,000 a year, maybe.
Would the counties distribute that money, or what does the county do with it?
We're not even sure at what form it comes in yet. This just started January 1st. Counties are just starting to come online. Some are, some aren't. Some are opting out.
Because I would assume that's your incentive, right, is you get money, because it's harder on your roads.
It's not much of an incentive.
No, basically, like any other time the state puts this stuff out, it's gonna be mandatory in
2025.
2025. They're gonna force it on you anyways.
Right, I'm just wondering, like, why would you guys do
To jump in right now and get a little bit of money,
it?
And
because if you don't, you know, in 2025, the state's saying, well, you gotta do it now.
Right.
And you might not get anything then.
And it is a public service. There's a lot of these haulers, I've been talking to them as they're calling, because they are calling, asking, hey, you getting in, you getting in? So take a guy that's coming out of the Yale, well, or somewhere coming down Highway 4, hits Panora, and then it comes onto a county road, he's no longer legal. So if DOT enforcement pulled him over on P28, he can get fined for being overweight if we don't participate. So
So is that the only road that you guys are doing from the ethanol plant that way?
and the ethanol plant out by Coon Rapids, and then Yale for the co-op. Basically, county roads that didn't impact cities over 500 and getting them to state routes.
so Ash, I don't know if we can really make a decision since that part wasn't on the agenda.
No, we can't
No,
make
but
a
this
decision.
was just for information.
Yeah, this
is
is
just
okay.
information.
This is information.
But we have to opt in or opt out at some
By
point, right?
2025, I mean,
Oh,
yeah, so it's not something that has to happen today. We, as a Guthrie County are, the state legislature is pushing, and if we don't participate at some level, then there's a little bit more heat gonna come down, so.
Well, thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, absolutely.
And I can get that flyer, this flyer, DOT put out a flyer with some information, I can get that to the council.
we.
We
I
have
think
it.
got that,
Yeah.
yeah.
You do.
Actually,
Okay.
Okay, review of proposed funding framework, Chip? No?
Oh, we didn't even get to the system.
It might be a little bit.
We
fuel
talked
system
a
works
little
great.
bit about it.
Thank you.
It's in your council packets, but it's just if you take the approach of doing a slurry, and it's in your council packet at the bottom half of that page. So it simply reviews the cost information at the left. Part two is White Pole Road. And it reviews the cost estimate, assuming slurry is put in place. The drainage improvements are included, engineering, a contingency. The total cost, which is good to have all the cost components put together, is $239,850. And then the city would have cash on hand to pay for that if you were to go that route and if the cost is that level.
So in July, or June, when we have our estimate back, if it's 4 million or whatever for us to do our thing, this is how it will be funded on there. Of course, those prices will probably be different because we got, 4 more months of inflation.
Very well could be.
So,
Thank you.
thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Chip, you're not leaving, are you?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. 9, voluntary annexation. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Did you receive anything else? No. Any comments, concerns, general public? Close the public hearing. B, resolution 2303C, approving voluntary annexation.
So moved.
By Renzo. Please vote. Patrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Yes. Kaba?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
Okay, 10, police department speed camera update. Chief Rehal.
Hello. I'm just here to answer any questions that you guys may have from my perspective. I know that the Optic had sent some answers back to the city and whatnot, but.
I got a question.
Yep.
So how did you come about this recommendation to the council?
So this all started years ago. It might have even been the previous council. They had asked me to look into it. I reached out. I think at the time,
Can I interrupt you for a second? This particular company, what other companies did you look at prior to recommending this one to the council?
I don't recall the company that it was originally, but one of the workers had worked for that company. And so we had originally reached out to them. I had given the council information at that time, just to look at. People voted no on it. We moved on. And then here recently, he's been in contact with me. I believe, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
He was here.
The guy that was here.
Yeah.
Not Alex, but the other guy. He had been, just reaching out to me as a police chief, like, hey, is the city interested, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, nobody on the council had made any notion that they were interested. Here recently, I think maybe a year or two ago, someone had asked to have some information brought forward. So he had been reaching out to me. I said, can you give me some information? I brought it to the council for you guys to decide. And then I think, about a year had gone by again. And here recently, someone had asked me or the council had asked me to reach out to him again and bring you some more information. So I just want, real quick, I think there's a misconception that somehow I'm driving this, and I'm not. I don't have any interest in it.
Can I just stop you for a second?
Sure.
Councilperson Renslow said this was your recommendation at our last meeting.
I didn't say it was his
Yes,
recommendation.
you did.
No, I
He
didn't.
said we should get the contract and go with Dave's recommendation.
So, and I can clear it up real quick. I have pros and cons to this. I think that there are things that benefit us as a city, as a department. And I think that there's also some negatives. And that's why I truly believe that it should be the council's decision to make this. I didn't want to be the person coming forward saying, you need to vote for this. I think it's up to you guys as city leaders. But I do see some benefits to it. There are definitely some pros.
So
I appreciate your candor on that, and because I knew you weren't here making a presentation that night, and I knew from previous conversations, you have never said, I recommend this company, but that's what we were told. So we had an email that somebody, was it you, Sarah, received a letter? Or there's a letter to you, Mayor, about another company that
He was gonna meet with Dave and myself, and he never showed up. He said, I'll get back with you. He never got back with us.
I believe we've had 2 companies reach out,
Yeah.
and one of them actually set up a meeting with us, but then they canceled last minute.
And this company here makes their own cameras and everything else. I think a lot of the other companies are comparing a Volkswagen to a Cadillac.
What I would say, just from looking at the other companies that I have, Genoptic is a bigger company that kind of produced some of this technology. I think some of the other local companies are offering different solutions. Now that may work, but I think mainly it's my understanding, I mean, I'm not for sure on this, it's just my understanding from talking briefly to the one that canceled with us, was that theirs are mobile. So they're a trailer system where we would have to pull it, hook it up somewhere. And I don't believe the DOT would ever allow a trailer to be parked on the side of the interstate. So it would limit kind of where those trailers could go. Genoptic is more of a permanent solution. The other difference with Genoptic and some of these other companies is they were willing to give us additional technology. So they were willing to install cameras throughout town that would not be enforcement cameras. They wouldn't be necessarily managing speed, but they would be keeping an eye on vehicles going through intersections, things like that. So give you an example, last night we had an attempted car burglary out in the new development. If we had, say, a camera like this installed somewhere out there, if that car had gone through the intersection, it would have logged it, it would have gotten the plate number, and then we could have later on as an investigative tool said, hey, we had this burglary, let's go look at our cameras. Oh, there's a silver four-door sedan, we've got a license plate number, we know exactly who it is. So they were more willing to install some of that stuff, and they were also willing to install cameras in our vehicles, body cameras, those types of things, which we've been needing and we've been, asking for. That's why, if you were to ask my opinion, I would say I think from what I've heard, they sound like they've got a pretty good offer. But I haven't heard the offers from the other side.
See, that's just it, is as a council member, I believe it's my duty to do due diligence and look at just more than one company. And even if they cancel at the last minute, we don't know what came up to make them cancel. Sure. And I think every attempt should be made to reach out to them again so they can make a presentation in front of the council so we can hear all sides, because I don't do my business that way. I don't think anybody would do their business just saying, hey, my buddy recommended this, I've done it before, pay the price, so that's why I don't do it here, because I'm not spending my money. Sure. On it. So I appreciate your candor on that, so I don't know, I'll shut up and let other people ask questions.
I do have something. For one thing, we're not spending money on these, correct? This is completely not out of our pocket.
Yeah, it's
So
my understanding.
we'll make that clear, it's nothing out of our pocket. Second of all, have you heard these other companies, how quick of a turnaround, let's say we have a stolen car or somebody that has an Amber Alert out and that car goes underneath the interstate. These other companies, are they able to give you that information?
They don't differ, but
Seconds?
I haven't heard any that can do seconds, like Genoptic.
And they said what? They said maybe,
Minutes, I think is
yeah,
what
like
they-
seconds, like I think he said.
No, Genoptic said, I think 5 seconds.
Yeah, and the other ones are minutes. And
Yeah.
so, I think not too long ago, Officer Martinson said he was in here and there was some stuff going on the interstate. And by the time he got the call that this child was being moved, they were already it was minutes, right?
Sure.
And so Genoptics, or whatever their name is, could probably get that information to us within seconds to have an officer
I
out there.
believe he said at the meeting it was their standard, they guaranteed 5 seconds. It would be sent to one of our phones within 5 seconds.
Which
That's
is
what he had said.
great timing, given the fact you have a kid, being abducted going down the interstate.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive.
Do you find, that the speed out there, I think I heard that the night we actually talked about it, there was somebody going over 100 miles an hour that was pulled over?
It's not uncommon, and I think if you look at the state patrol, what they've been saying lately is that speeds are on the rise. Ever since COVID, speeds have been increasing. We haven't had any sort of study in Stuart, but I would say just from our experience, we see, it's not uncommon for us to see people in the 90 and 100 mile an hour zones on the interstate. And the big thing for me, I think when this originally came about and the city had originally came to me and asked if we should look at this. My standard, it was shortly after we had a firefighter that had been hit on the interstate. There was some pretty gnarly accidents that had happened recently in that time period. And so it was truly just looking for creative solutions to slow people down. I know that there's this real focus on the fines and on the cameras taking photos and all that stuff, and I totally get that side of the argument. But if you look at Europe, these things are everywhere. If you look at certain states, these things are everywhere. You know, we don't go anywhere in today's day and age where we're not on camera. It's a standard protocol. So if it could be a creative way to help slow people down, then it means we don't have to be out there. It means the fire department doesn't have to be out there, rescue doesn't have to be out there. Great, you know. So
I remember this was brought up at a budget meeting and we were kind of looking and then, it got asked for our city attorney to look at, and I think Rick looked at it.
Yes.
And it kind of went by the wayside and it was me that kept asking where we were at because I wanted to continue a discussion on it. And our city attorney cleared it, said it was fine that we do these if that's what the council's decision was. So that's why you were being asked where we were at with this, because I wanted to continue discussions. We had started to talk about it and we just never finished.
and by no means do I mind looking into it. I just didn't want there to be this misconception that I was bringing this forward. I was just doing what I was asked.
But Dave, can you explain the time when an officer got shot in Omaha and you crossed paths with the person?
I mean, there's
whether it made a difference, whether you could have had a license plate number.
Sure. I mean, in my 15 or so years here, there's lots of stories I can think of where things like that have happened. The one you're talking about, we had a gentleman here that had broken into some cars, and then later that evening, he went to Omaha and shot a police officer with a gun that he stole out of Stuart, out of a car here in Stuart. And I had literally walked in to come and go 30 seconds after he had walked out. So, you know, it could have been an interaction that I could have had with them. So we are on the interstate. We do have, you know, people of all walks of life coming through here, and there's all sorts of crime. You guys would be surprised when we get updates, you know, from the state or whatnot, that there's a homicide detective in LA tracking a vehicle and it's coming through here, and they're calling us to go look for it, or a you know, kidnapping, something like that. It does happen. It doesn't happen every day by any means, but it does happen. So those cameras could be a valuable tool for that. I don't know if it's the only answer, but it's definitely, you know, something to consider.
Well, I think eventually it will cost us money because they want a 5-year contract. And if something happens, the state comes out and says, no, we pay for that. So if it's $1,500 a month per camera, we could be owing over $100,000 to get out of this contract.
I'm confused. Didn't he say, isn't that what this email was, him answering those questions? Because Dwayne said.
Right, and the people from this company says, go back to where we said the termination fee.
So we want, if we were to look at this, we want to make sure that there is no termination fees if legislature
But there
changes
is,
their mind.
but there isn't. It's $1,500 per camera. I read this the other night, sorry. It's $1,500 per camera per month. So if we had it up and going for a year, then the state comes in and says, no, you have to turn them off on the interstate. Then we got 48 months of $1,500 per camera that we have to pay.
I'm sorry, I'm so hyper-focused on answering one. Yesterday, I forgot to move on.
I know we want to make sure
this.
there's no termination fees in there, but I don't think that was written into this contract as it is right now.
And I think the contract that they gave us, didn't he say it was a very blank contract because they didn't want to finish the contract if we were gonna look at other companies? Is that the way I read it?
I do believe he said he would be available by phone if you guys had a question for him, but
So
I don't know the answer to that question.
I guess my thing would be is, given Dwayne's recommendations, can we go back and make sure, to what Corey's saying, that if we were to terminate, we are not on the hook for all these fees?
And that's why Dwayne said, make sure that there is no termination fees.
So that's
And
why.
when they answered back, they said, look, if you have that email right there, what did they come back and say? What number was that? Was it 2.3? I'm trying to dig right quick here. What did they say, Christina, if you have that email?
Is it this number 3 where it says the fixed location enforcement attachment discusses the termination fee? Again, we want to make sure that there are no termination fees if the legislature changes the law.
we would need to set forth in writing any costs that the city would incur. So I think it's just more negotiation, making sure that it's what we want, because this contract isn't what we would be signing. This is like, this has no percentages, this is just a basic straightforward
my other-
contract.
And my other concern is, this community has worked very, very hard to bring businesses downtown, very hard. So when the people leave town to go home, what are they gonna say? Thanks for the speeding ticket, and they're not coming back. They'll go to Des Moines. They're not gonna come down to downtown Stuart because all they got out of this deal was a speeding
But
ticket.
if they get off the interstate, they're not gonna get a speed ticket, because wouldn't they be placed under the interstate?
So that's all we're concerned about is
No,
30 feet.
I'm just saying, if you come to visit downtown, you're not gonna be speeding off the exit.
I don't think that will be.
We haven't decided where
I thought they
anything's
would be
gonna
down
be, how we're gonna get permission to place
I mean, I don't
this,
know, we
what the
haven't,
state's gonna
nobody's,
say, what the federal government is gonna say.
the motion was to entertain a contract to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
And we couldn't even do that because it got stopped.
Well, at this point, you wanna go ahead and have Dwayne investigate more.
I would like,
If they come in and say we can't have them, if we gotta pay termination fees, and Mike, do you want me and Dave to see if we can reach back out that company that never come here to talk to us?
Well,
The company is from the same one that have the Prairie City.
And I went past and they have the signs,
I would,
speed
I
enforcement, but
would
I never
like
did
to
see
have
a
at least
unit.
another company out here. And while I appreciate your thoughts on that, it's very hard for a third party to say, well, that company really doesn't do that until we actually hear from that company.
Sure.
And I think we had another council member that last time said, don't forget to shop around. I think it's our duty to do that. Then we can say, when I go out there and talk to somebody about, well, why are you doing speaking? We shopped around, this is the best bet. I'm neither for nor against it right now. I wanna know what our best bet is. However, when you give a ticket to somebody, that affects their driving record, right?
Sure.
Okay, hopefully that fine is going to change their driving habit, not only here, but maybe down the road.
Sure.
We hope so.
With these cameras, my view on that is you're ticketing a car, okay? I could loan you my car, you could be driving 100 miles an hour. Guess who pays for that? I do.
Sure.
Not the person doing it.
I do know that they have a way to challenge that if you have to fill out an affidavit saying you weren't the one driving, and there is a process, but.
More work
I
on
hear
my
you.
behalf. Why should I have to go through all that work if we have an officer out there, whether we do it or not, I'm not saying you have to. And they stop the person and give that person the ticket, you know? I've heard people, I've taken calls where people have told me, hey, this can fund White Pole Road. It's like, oh, so it's just about the revenue, you know? I don't know of any safety study out here that's been talked about. I know since I've been on the fire department, there's been one really big wreck right underneath the thing. There's been more down the way and stuff, and I think, you know, inattention and it's probably some speed. But what are we saving Stuart from? You know, if we had multiple in our thing like 235, I would be more inclined to be all for this because, you know, you want to keep people slowed down and, you know, they're zipping in and out, and does it do it down there? To some extent, you know. Had a person call me up and said, yeah, I got a speeding ticket and I paid it, but when I head out west, I speed. Well, what, you know?
Yeah.
I would almost be more inclined to get the cameras that you're talking about to help identify cars on that, because that's truly about safety. In my personal opinion, the other is just to get a money grab. And I think, I agree with you, Corey, that you're gonna have to do it, and I know people have said, I would never come to Stuart. You know, and
Dick,
we've worked so hard.
can we have that other company come out next month, and then also we ask something, or
I don't
then
know what
have,
happened, he's supposed to be here, never showed up.
so we have somebody else come out, so
I
everybody's.
did find that where it was saying that. So go to page, if you guys are in your deal, it'll say 9 of 9, page 9 of 9. Go to the next page after that, it'll say page 1 of 5. It's 1.5, the termination fee.
So can we have Dwayne look at that and investigate this some more? And then also see if we can have this other company come out so we can make an educated decision on what we wanna do.
we can entertain any conversation, I'm fine with that, but just to push this through, I'm not.
Well, so when I asked for this last month, I just wanted to see what it looked like. I mean, I wasn't trying to
Sure,
push it forward. I wanted to know what the numbers look like, what the so we could
If they
iron
won't
things
even
out
give
like
us-
termination fees. We
Yeah,
don't
they
wanna
won't even
incur
give us
that.
the number, something.
Right, well, and that's because we wanna look at another company, so they're not gonna give us numbers until they solely know that we're gonna go with them, which is understandable. But can we get that termination fee looked at some more and then have this other company come out so we can kinda,
Yes,
Dave, do you still have the contact number?
I can find out from Greg.
okay, all right, so that was a decision too.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
thank you.
Thank you for your tenure, I appreciate that, I really do.
11, request to purchase land, Allen and Palmini.
They've been patiently waiting.
They haven't.
I guess I'm the one to speak. Most open, I guess. Most of you guys know me, most of you know where Tanya and I live, we're on southwest side, I guess. It's come to our attention, there is some abandoned ground to the west of us, between us and Rich Anderson. It's a short 4 acres, it's all timber, grown up grass. I did some digging back in on the county, the city back in the time. When Rich and Marcia bought the ground from the city, they closed the alley. There's supposed to be an alley on the south side of that timber edge. So it's actually closed. Rich and Marcia bought the ground from the city, private sale from the city to them. The only way anybody, you can't build in it, it's wet. Most of you guys probably know what I'm talking about. I guess I want to let the city know that I'd be interested in at least entering or talking to them, seeing what, I want to put a bug in your guys' ear to see if they're even willing to sell it. It is landlocked, so if it sells, the only way they're gonna get in there is they're gonna have to get an easement from either us, Everett would be on the corner, Anderson, and then as you work your way around the block, Mrs. Bigsby and Rita, Clifton, and then, Swartzkopf, yeah, anybody that's around the right, when you get around the corner, it would be Corey, and then, yeah, Crawford's Corey, and then Rich and Marcia. So,
I guess anybody driven past there, Rich Anderson's tremendously cleaned up his, I mean, it isn't actually his property, it's still.
yeah, Rich has done a lot of work, because the property line, if you guys come down Second, I think that's Second Street, and you actually look, the city property is actually about 4 foot off of Rich's little storage shed that's back there. He cleared that whole bottom where the water runs through. Got a bunch of firewood cut that, he takes care of all the ash trees, which is saving Jimmy and Corey from having to cut them down. Cleans all that stuff up. So I guess I'm here to put the bug in the council's ear if they'd be willing to see what it's, what the plan would be, or if they would want to even sell to Tanya and I.
The city attorney did say the adjacent property owner does not have first right to purchase the property. However, the city council may prefer to sell the adjacent property owner based upon their plans for the property.
Yep.
Which that's true.
Yep.
And if you can do anything like what Rich Anderson does, it'd be a heck of an improvement.
Yeah, cleaned up. There is some plans. I got this thing in my mind about Christmas trees. Sell some Christmas trees or something like that, but that's a 7-year plan. You don't cut anything until year 7 on that. But just cleaning it up, and to be honest, we don't want neighbors. So
Ash, what's the process? If Alan was interested in buying this property, would it
No difference than any other property for sale.
he'd just be able to put up a purchase agreement with a proposed price and?
No, it has to go to the city attorney to start the process of selling city property.
Okay,
So if you're willing to sell the property
And then
by city.
who so who comes up with the purchase price? Is that just fair market value
You would,
or?
no, you would allow to bid, everybody has a right to go, unless as a city you set up in.
Right, but this just said in the email that we have the right
Yes.
to sell it to them if we so choose.
Yes.
So we don't have to put it out for bid. That's what I'm asking.
You have to get an appraisal if you.
Right,
didn't put it
okay,
out
so
for
that's
bids.
where I was leading. So if we chose to enter in an agreement with the Neals, we would have to have an appraisal, so we knew how much the land would be.
And the city,
if that was our decision.
yes, and the city attorney takes care of that after he makes it.
But we don't have to open it up to bid if we don't want to.
Fair market.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense to have somebody decide,
Right, that's where I was
Rich
going with it.
Anderson or Neil buy it because it's landlocked.
I'm trying to figure out the process. If we were to entertain this,
Yep.
what is the next step? To get our city attorney involved, resolve, and figure out a price,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Question. So I appreciate your
Yeah, go ahead.
bringing this up here, but I'm gonna ask, Sarah, is that alley, was that abandoned and closed for sure?
It does not show on the assessor's site that it is abandoned.
Okay.
It looks as though it's still platted. It's a 30-foot wide alley, which is a little bit wider than the typical alley. And it shows in our old book of the platted city, but I would have to look into it with the county to know for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Forrest, do you know any?
No, you're fine.
Information?
I don't know that, but the only comment I'd say is just to make sure you check with the utility and public works, make sure
Done.
there's not
Nothing in there. Yeah.
nothing in there.
Yeah.
So I think we're like on step 3, we don't wanna get to step 100. So,
Exactly.
and you said, you were honest, you don't want neighbors. So really, if everything went perfectly and somebody could get back in there and develop it, let's say they did, the city would tend to generate more revenue off of having houses there than just a plot of land. I'm not saying we won't sell it to you. No, these are questions that I think I'm obligated to bring up on that. So I think we need to get those questions answered first, you know. Was there somebody interested in that land? I don't know. Hold it, I do know. Matt, wasn't there somebody interested in purchasing that land?
There was a couple of developers that were asking about some land.
Okay.
But how are you gonna get to it if you don't have an easement from any of the property owners? How do you get to there? I just throwing that
There's
out
an
there.
alley down there.
The county website shows that there was an alley.
Okay.
And so guys, so
Yes, sir.
Dick, when you have a moment, Warren.
Yeah, I know, Warren, go ahead.
Well, I just want to correct something that Mike said.
Yeah.
If he's raising Christmas trees on it, it's gonna be classified commercial by the assessor. So you will get more taxes off of it than you would from just a bare residential farm.
Right, okay, thank you. So if it's a business, more thing, but I think in your letter you said you wanted its own ag.
Well, that was because of the Christmas trees. We didn't know, that's when I talked to the assessor. That was something that she said, and it's up to you guys to determine how that goes. This is just very informal, guys. This is my first step to you guys. I can tell if Sarah wants to go back to when Rich and Marcia bought their house and look in the minutes, because they actually bought up 2 quarries back then because they knew it would never be developed back then. So whatever the time frame was when Rich and Marcia built their house, which was early 2000s, I believe, is when the city closed that and sold the 38 feet or whatever it was on Rich and Marcia.
So we need to find that out, you know,
And
just
just let me know.
because that way, like I said, if I go out and start talking to people and say, well, how come you did this? I can say, hey, we did our due diligence. And then I know that I'm good on that. So, and then if we did have anybody developing that, I get you not wanting to have neighbors. I don't know. I think that needs to be entertained also. I don't know what anybody else feels like, but
I don't even know how to set a price on something like that, or.
He said that you would get an
you
appraisal.
do an appraisal.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Just get appraisal and they'll say, no, you need a lot of something.
Yeah, and
Can we, for next meeting, can we see if there's any utility area that we need to be looking at, any utility stuff we need to look at? B, check with Jim Henderson, make sure there's nothing there that he needs to tend to.
and Pat, both, I've talked to them both.
Yeah.
What did they tell you?
There's
That's clear.
nothing underneath there other than the storm sewer that comes and cuts back through Rich's there on that side.
For our records, can we make sure we ask, just so that way it's.
And so you can always through the, I think
And
it was
then-
assessed with Tenniel book, sorry, go ahead, Christine.
What else did you say? We needed to check
Well-
with Jim, we need to check with utilities,
Yes,
See if it
and
is an open
the
alley.
and
council,
then check on that open alley, and then we can go from there. I would think.
okay, we can do that, but do you wanna decide that you wanna sell, so we can give it to the attorney?
I don't think so, right? I think that's a step a little bit farther down.
Okay,
So we
just.
we need to get these initial questions answered, because if we say, yeah, we want to sell it to Alan tonight, then we're gonna sell it to Alan. But if we say, hey, you know, we got this and Matt's doing his job as economic development, you know, if we can have houses built back there and get more, you know. Going back, I think that is our
How about the
responsibility.
zoning over there? Cause we can't spot zone.
Yeah, that zoning has to change if you.
So what is the zoning? What are you zoned currently?
Residential.
So you can't have a bunch of residential and then have a commercial right in the middle, correct?
Yes, correct.
Correct. So we have to be careful about
Yeah.
what we're doing zoning.
That's what I'm saying, there's a lot of stuff we're gonna go through. Okay, we're
So
gonna
my motion
start,
was to check with those three things. and
okay,
then
we're
do
gonna
it.
start with this to the next meeting, answer all these questions, then take it from there.
You good with that now?
Yeah, I'm fine, guys. This is very informal, and I offer any of you guys to come over there and walk through
That's
it.
good. That's good.
Take a look at it to see, because it's,
I did with your pictures. I used to do work for Rita, so I was back in that area, and yeah, so I know.
Okay, so we have a motion now.
that's it.
To get the ball rolling.
To get the ball rolling, we're gonna check on 4 things that Christina asked.
Three,
So
Ally,
I asked for one.
gym, and utilities.
And Mike asked for one.
So, I mean, it doesn't matter, I don't care, I'm not gonna take any credit for asking a question.
Okay,
It doesn't matter, just check.
so we have a motion
That's fine.
here.
I'll
Do we have a
second it.
second?
Yep. I'll
Thanks,
second
Alan, I
it.
appreciate
Thank you.
your time.
Thank you.
Okay,
Who's second?
I did.
Okay. Second,
Yes.
Ollie,
Yes.
Morgan, Cobble,
Yes?
Lindsay.
Yes.
Okay, 12, fiscal year, June 30th, city audit.
I have a few questions.
sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I went through the findings of this, and I remember last year, I sat down, and maybe the year before, I sat down with Ash and tried to get some of these questions answered, because I feel like some of these are repeat things.
Yeah.
So, again, I see on here that we have some segregation of duties
Yes.
audit.
Oh, you're on that.
It's
Okay.
the second part of that.
Okay.
So, I don't know what we need to do to fix that, but it's on every single audit. I don't know if we
You
need
want me
to.
to answer?
Yeah.
In order for you to fix that, you have to have 6 more people at the city. That's why you're gonna see that, not just for the last 15 years, 29 years that I've been here, will be here for the next 29 years.
Many cities in Iowa have.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm asking, 'cause-
Yeah, it's all stuff related to hiring more people. They have to put it in the audit, but it's not really a violation, because it's a small town.
Okay.
You can't have a lot of people.
So the next one is this receipt issue. It says that we're not depositing our receipts timely.
Related to not having enough people to do it every 5 minutes. You have to have a lot of people.
So that's not taking stuff to the bank every day, or, I mean,
We do every bank, but he wants it
but
like,
why does he say 2 to 3 days after receipt?
oh, you got, if you're gonna do it every day, you have to have more. Just all related to the amount and the number of the people you work.
Okay. And then, so these next ones are, I think Chip's gonna be able to help answer. Apparently, we have some issues with the city ensuring all general obligation, principal and interest payments are being made from the debt service fund.
You want me to answer, you want to check that?
I don't care who answers, I'm just
I will
trying to
answer
figure it
it,
out.
you,
I'm on 40.
Thank you.
okay, when you receive the money for TIF, you receive it in a TIF fund. You want you to take that money from the TIF fund, put it in the debt service, to pay from the debt service. It's like putting the money in the pocket, Christina,
I'm listening.
in that pocket, you don't want you to put it in that pocket, you want you to put it in that pocket. You see, that's really what it is. So they want you to pay out of the debt service if you receive the money in the urban renewal. If you look at the budget this year, we're doing that. We're trying to take the money from the debt service. You look at the budget here, you see in the transfer here,
So why are we getting dinged on it?
it just kind of, the idea, if he wants you to take it from that fund, put it in that fund, and pay it out of that fund. You go every fiscal year. Get this right now, you can think on it because this here is not gonna show in that audit. When he comes next year to do the audit, he's gonna see it. So it will be shown on the audit next year that it's eliminated. So it just, but the whole idea is you take it, receive it in one fund, and you pay it from another fund. So you have to make a transfer.
Are you following him? Good? Okay.
I hope so.
It's a tedious technicality about which fund to pay
Okay,
out.
that's all, I'm trying to make sure that these things, because there's.
Have you ever called the auditor?
No.
Oh.
No, I was
So,
just.
I mean, I have, and
I know.
I've asked him about this, he said every town has it.
Okay, and that's fine, I mean, so the other thing is this, the sinking account, that's reoccurred,
Same.
same thing?
Yeah, same. You just take your money, reserve, have $1 million, we want you to put 100,000
They want
in a different
The
account.
bond resolution for the sewer revenue debt requires a monthly transfer from a sewer, the general sewer revenue to a sewer sinking fund. And if that isn't transferred every month, which is a bookkeeping process,
So that's
they
all
have
it
a
is?
write-up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip over some of these. What about this one on page 43, where it says, total wages as reported to the Iowa Workforce Development were materially understated?
No, that is, there's always glitch with the system over a few cents. Every time they report it, because you can't exceed 135 for your social security and all the stuff. This is the unemployment will report. It's gonna be like that until the system itself gets fixed.
Okay. So my last thing is this TIF disbursement thing on page 44.
Yes.
It says that we paid legal fees from a special revenue urban renewal tax increment fund. Costs do not represent TIF debt, and accordingly, while.
I will offer, I think the auditor is flat wrong on that.
Okay.
It's totally wrong.
Okay.
Your development agreements say you can pay admin or legal fees, and we don't charge in the development agreements. That's all legal fees.
Right, okay.
Auditor's wrong.
Okay,
Yeah, and
that's all I
hate
wanted
to
to make
say
sure.
that, but to be fair here, not to myself, to everybody working here at the city hall, you received the highest opinion. You got, this is the highest you can receive. We should thank everybody working here at the city hall for helping out, for helping me reaching to this point, to reach you as a council member to be proud of your town, because you represent this town as Mike said. How you represent this town by an audit like that? You always have to have it in your hands. Because when you look at other towns and do audit, you can compare, come back to what I just said. You should be proud of the people working here.
Yeah, well, I mean,
proud of
this,
yourself.
that was public knowledge and I had somebody ask me
Yes,
about it.
no,
so I just
and
wanna
I'm
make
glad
sure
to
we're clear-
answer, and I'm glad
We're clear with our
Chair
answers.
is here, but the public needs to know that you're receiving a good audit.
That's why I asked Chip to make sure he didn't leave.
I just
Good
like to
audits.
thank Christina for asking the questions,
Yes.
good questions. And you, actually, your staff up here
Thank you.
for bringing this in and
Thank you.
completing it for us. Do you need a motion to?
Yes,
accept?
please.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Cobal, second by Dolly, how do you vote? Patrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Yes. Cobal?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes,
Okay, safe routes to school, A. You gonna talk on all this for us?
Yes, Mayor.
And my daughter has another hoverboard, so they got 3 of them now.
Those aren't allowed on circuits. Kidding. So this project was bid through the DOT and is partially funded through the DOT. And we received 3 bids through the DOT. And the low bid was from Caliber Concrete in the amount of $291,062. The city is receiving a $216,000 grant from 2 different pots of money. So the difference is the city's share. We did receive this, went out for bid and received bids earlier. These bids, we said maybe these are higher bids because of the tight time frame. So we said you got all from summer basically to bid it, basically it came back the same bid. And so the question before the council is, if you're looking to move forward with the project or not. I think Chip handed out some of the financing. Chip can talk about that with the council.
how much is the difference over that we're gonna have to put out of pocket?
75,000 over, what's our cost with that? Did you say we had 216,000?
216,000 in the grant. So yeah, that's 75,000, yes.
That we have to figure out how to pay for.
Yes,
I
now,
think,
Chip is
no,
gonna
answer.
No.
Chip,
Chip would be the D.
Look at your.
okay, so maybe I'll let Chip talk about that. This was never going to be 100% grant paid for. There's always going to be a city match.
And we had money set aside and all this stuff, but I think Chip has different approach, so we will wait until we get to D. Now let's go to A. Resolution 2305, resolution finally approving and conforming plans. We need a motion for that.
Yes, that's nothing to do with the bids. This is just approving the plans and specifications for the project.
But this is not saying we're going forward.
No.
I move that.
Okay, move by Kava. Second by Morgan, how do you vote, Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Yes. Kava?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
E, consideration of gifts. Okay,
Yeah.
that should be.
That was just the end of the bids that we received. C would actually be making a decision. Council.
So let's,
So this would be a motion to accept the caliber concrete at the 291 as the lowest bid. Is that right? Or what are we doing?
Are you saying this has to go to C to make a recommendation?
no, B.
No, not C.
No, C.
C, letter C.
Letter C.
Oh.
Agenda item C.
We're on B now, consideration of bids for the table out to school. You want Chip to talk?
Well,
So-
Yeah,
so we're
I will
at,
go finance.
Let's do that.
we're at 216,000 that's paid for through the grant. And so we're, what'd you say, 75,000 over?
What?
And
It's 133,000.
133,000 over. And how much of that did we have set aside?
Initially, we had 50,000 that was set aside.
Initially?
Yes.
So we're still short $73,000.
Can
But
you talk
he
about
has
that,
a-
Jim?
He has a different.
So in the right,
What do we do without you two?
We are on D now.
the right side, the sources of funds, the top half, part one, the two grants are in row 2 and 3. The Iowa DOT Alternative Program Grant in row 2. There's a convoluted bunch of acronyms for that second grant in row 3, 130 from Region 12. The city's portion, the bottom line, the city funds what is not funded by the grants. So the city's portion is 133,762, and the city has that in TIF cap.
So this would go back to the same thing about funding White Pole Road. Safe routes to school is in our urban renewal plan. So that means it qualifies for TIF.
Yeah.
Okay? We have TIF funds that are available that we will not need to certify to get more TIF funds. We will not have to change the levy. This would be handled, if you see on there, it says it's internal transfer, so as Ash says, we take from one pocket, put into the other one.
Yes.
And it's a done deal. There's no impact to the general fund on this.
You have to do an internal advance resolution, which Dorsey and Whitney would prepare.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's some technical steps to cover, but you've got the cash to pay for it.
Is this what we're talking about when you sent an email to Ash and then addressed Mike Kaba in the middle of it saying, please note, the TIF cash on hand is X, so it may be reasonable to assume approximate not to exceed target amount of X, but it's entirely up to you. Of course, this amount of TIF cash is currently available.
That's right, and that's funding the slurry project too, that's both.
Right.
It's slurry and if you hypothetically were to do the slurry and the safe routes to schools.
And we're done with the slurry thing, so.
We're not doing anything with
Okay,
that.
so let's just talk
Yes.
about what.
This is, no, safe routes.
How much have we spent on this?
I'm
How
sorry.
much have we spent on this as a city so far? The safe routes to school.
Oh, I have no idea how.
Just
Just
engineering, isn't
engineering
it?
cost,
Just the engineering.
engineering cost,
Zero for us.
yeah, usually
Tell the bond that you.
Chip doesn't cost.
No, not an issue.
Thank you, Chip, for that.
Yeah.
We
Anything else?
Keep thanking you all the time. So, we know that now the approach of what Chip is trying to do.
Does anybody have any questions on on what he does?
First.
So again, remember, it's no impact to the general fund, you have to do the internal transfer. No additional TIF certification,
Correct.
the money's already there.
Chance to get a project done.
And then y'all can say you got something done for the city.
I wanna make a comment too. I drive that road where this will be a lot. I'm sure you do too. We do have a lot of kids that walk down that road. We do.
I mean, they're not gonna walk on the sidewalk whether it's there or not if they don't want to, but it is a good project to finish.
I get that, but I mean, it's just, it would be nice to kick them to the sidewalk. I mean, they run on it cross country because they can't run on White Pole Road. So there would be a really big benefit there.
A possible safe route, because kids do walk on the highway there, which is very dangerous.
The only part I don't like about it is in front of the Catholic Church. That sidewalk is like.
It's the same way.
It's actually the same width.
You go measure it.
Go measure it, yes.
Or if the grass is just grown in.
I took my
But
tape
man, it
measure
feels like
and checked it.
No, it's the grass overgrowing the
I think
sidewalk.
that came up last year and you
Yeah.
and Jim went out.
Yeah, we
I
actually measured it,
Measured it, so
it's the grass has grown over so much.
Man,
it looks really small.
Get the church to plow it.
There you go.
it just, and they keep that grass really
Plow
nice,
the sidewalk.
but they need
They're
edge,
not-
they need edge back.
Well, who takes care of them sidewalk infractions when they're not shoveling their snow? I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Is it Jim and Corey? Cops or whoever?
But Jim and Corey have a ticket book for vehicles now too. They do the same thing on sidewalks too.
And this sidewalk will be on the responsibility of the homeowner,
Yes.
which it goes in front of.
Yes.
And it's a 4 foot wide sidewalk. And the front of the Catholic church is a 4 foot wide sidewalk. We went out and measured it. And so for ADA, you can do a 4 foot wide sidewalk, but every so often you have to have a wider section for passing. And then we have that built into the plans for that.
Yeah, we went through quite the process.
Yeah.
So
Really nice.
we're on B.
We're on D, so B, yeah, we need a motion on B.
So what, consideration of bids, what is that, what do you mean? We need a motion, what are we just considering all three of them or one of them or what? What do we?
Should we go with the
That's the
lowest
language.
bid?
I mean,
So it's-
your recommendation would be the lowest one probably, would I guess?
Yeah, B is just a consideration of this discussion. Well, we don't need a motion for B. It's
Oh,
C,
okay.
it's C that you actually.
Okay, we need a motion.
So I would move that we accept the lowest bid of $291,062 from Caliber Concrete.
Motion by Caldwell, do we have a second? Second by Morgan. How do you vote? Patrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Yes. Caldwell?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yeah.
Okay, D.
That's first, the Chip.
I have nothing further.
So that concludes that. We'll get together with you tomorrow because there's some paperwork that has to happen.
And let me ask you about the, what we're going to do, is that just something you handle or what do we do?
Usually.
I will.
Okay, yeah. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you for.
Resolution number 2304C, setting a date, that'll be again March 13th.
March 13th. Need a motion.
Second.
Second by Dolly, how do you vote? Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Caldwell?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
Okay, 15, ordinance 23013, ordinance to amend section 170.02, Western Municipal Code to include suburban lots within 2 miles of the corporate limits. 15.
I think this was that big, long discussion that you kind of jumped in on Warren, whoever, Warren, the last time we were talking about the future use stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just doing that.
Yes.
I'll move that.
Okay, move the Caldwell.
I'll say.
Kirkpatrick, let's see, what am I? How do you vote, Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Cobal?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
Okay. Need a motion for the second reading?
Second?
Morgan, second, okay. How do you vote, Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Cobal?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yeah.
Motion to waive the third and final reading?
Go ahead, I don't care.
By Morgan,
I'll
second
say.
by Cobal, how do you vote, Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Morgan? Cobal?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
Okay. 16, Economic Development Director, Matt.
Okay, I've got my report. You guys have any questions about any of that?
Can we still, the safe routes to school, I think that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we can,
Yeah, I filled out a grant, but I spoke to a lady about that today, and if the city can show that we can get the funds, then we would not qualify for the grant. And by tonight's actions, it looks like the city has the funds.
What are we talking about here?
It's talking about number 7, the Wellmark Foundation grant.
Oh,
Karen Harley was,
so you were just, I was like, what? Because there was all this funding in there, so you're talking about a different grant.
Yes.
So we can go for, we can use that for something else.
Okay.
So a once in 5-year thing. So
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
thanks.
so yes,
I told Matt, maybe we can use it for the pedestrian bridge.
Yeah, so this grant, from what I'm kind of understanding right now, is that you can apply for it once every 5 years. So we can just utilize this opportunity the next time it comes around for another, one of the other projects.
First item for you to hold by Johnson.
Yeah, and then, the Homes by Johnson, they finished their project ahead of schedule, they've got an offer on it. It's supposed to close February 27th. According to that, to the rehabilitation application, that they would be awarded 10% of the sale price. Once it was reported with the county assessor. So when and if the sale is closed in the amount of $175,900, the contractor would be awarded $17,590.
so this is something we need to look at next month,
Yes, so I just
once
wanted
that
to.
the sale is
Sale is final.
final and we have a number. I mean, you've seen, I take it you've seen the number, you know that the sale price is what it is.
No, I have not seen any actual contract information. So, and even if I had, closing date, the numbers can change.
Right, but it's 10% of the sale price, correct?
Yes.
So we would just move this to March and then we would,
I'm not asking for a motion.
okay,
This is
just
just an
informational.
update.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that there's no more additional questions.
I don't have any additional questions.
I'm just gonna make a suggestion, I don't know if anybody agrees with me on this, is that maybe wait until the month it sells. You know, because I was strictly looking at, saying, okay, go ahead and say they get it, and.
No, this is just an update so that when it does come through next month, you'll already have your information. I was looking to see if you had any questions, and then if I was to need to get answers to those questions, I would have a month to get those answers. So if you don't have any questions,
Then we're good.
yeah,
Just
so,
wait until-
so then I can come back with actual numbers and then let you know what those actual numbers are. And then you can make a motion from there.
Thanks,
So
Matt.
this is just an update.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
The next item is Wormwood Phase 4, I think that would be first.
So at the utility board meeting, I updated the council and the board, kind of where we were at. And I think this is Sarah, I got this to Sarah, maybe you don't have big versions like this, so those that have eyes that need a little help, I've got an 11 by 17.
We made it.
So.
I think we made it, Vic. Oh, I can see it myself.
I'll take it. Just because you did it.
I'm gonna let the people do this.
You have a much nicer country than I do.
Yeah, she did work hard to get it. Sure.
So and then I handed out those maps.
Yep.
The map at that. So we met with Seed, and Seed's recommendation to the council is to proceed forward doing the green and the blue as one bid is what they would like for council to do. The green, we're estimating at 5.6 million, and the blue at 1.8 for a total of 7.4. That's total project costs in that table. And then Seed says, well, if council's not wanting to bid the whole thing, then they at least want to see a base bid of the green and an alternate of the blue. And then you can decide, later if you want to do the blue or not.
Did we already have a map? And we
Yes.
said, this is what we're wanting to bid,
Yep.
and then we have alternate 1 and alternate 2?
We just have the alternate 1. We talked about 1 and 2 and 3.
She's gone back to last April, we had.
When we discussed doing this,
Yeah.
we would
Right,
like
yeah,
to
option
explore
1, 2, and
bids for
3.
1 and then get alternate for 2 and 3. Has this since changed?
Yes, so they're looking at doing the green as base bid and blue as an alternate rather than base bid, because the problem is doing just the connection for White Pole Road only gets us, and it's pretty expensive for 9 lots. If we can do the rest of the green, we can get more lots.
For some reason, I recall the back part being split into 3 spots. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I kind of remember something like that too.
Do you remember
It
it?
wasn't all that long ago, it wasn't.
It wasn't that long ago, because I remember saying this is a lot of money, and so we wanted to, it was 3 nice, pretty little colors, and it was all up in this area. And we didn't start exploring this until we knew we actually had the road.
So wasn't it like 8.5 for all of them?
Yeah, but there was 3 colors up top here, right? So I'm confused on why it changed. When
Is
I
this
thought
probably
I thought we had already approved how we wanted this bid.
I think Seed probably came back to the table and said, yes.
But didn't we already approve?
I know, so Seed has looked at things and they're asking council
To
go-
reconsider?
To reconsider and go with this. Is what Seed's asking. And they have the reasons for it. Again, this part up here is, and the Seed came up with the names as well, those. But so to go over
Wasn't
that.
Eric's idea, wasn't my idea.
No, I don't care about street names. I was confused on what happened with what we had approved and how we got to this compared to what we had.
So Tibbin Way was added to all of this to connect second down to White Pole Road. And the cost of Tibbin Way is, if you look at it on a cost per lot basis, is pretty expensive for those 9 lots. And so Seed says we need to throw in the other green to help balance that. We talked to Seed about flipping this and making the blue the base bid and the green the alternate, and Seed voted that they wanted to do it this direction. So this is Councilwoman Renslow. They are looking to do it this way, and that's why I'm here tonight, is to talk to council about bidding it in this format. It is different than what we talked about.
To make more sense of having a road with a lot more lots than the original few lots that you had there.
Yeah. And then the second question for council is just making sure we're comfortable with the schedule. Seed would like to come back to council at your March meeting to set a bid date and receive bids in April for construction this fall and into next year. And see where council is at with that.
Quick date.
I know, we'd have a lot to get done, but we've got plans and specifications already started. We've been working on this. And so I guess that's my question for council as well.
Forrest, on Harlan, is it a whole new line running down Harlan Street or
No.
just redoing that?
No, so the and it's built into this. It's down there, line 66. That's 700,000. That is actually rehabilitating the sanitary sewers that are tributary to the sewer on Harlan.
Okay.
So it's not, we're not tearing up Harlan, we're not actually rehabilitating the Harlan sewer north of Second.
Yeah.
We're actually rehabilitating the sewers south of the intersection of Harlan and North Second, going south, all the way into the south side of Stuart.
To limit the coming out, right?
Yeah,
We're
the
gonna line
amount-
them so that way the
Yeah, the amount, to keep the rainwater, right now the rainwater, when we get heavy rain, it's in the sanitary sewer where it doesn't belong, and it's just to keep the rainwater out.
so that way then the sewer system can.
So the sewer, yes, the sewer would have the capacity to handle these flows. And that would be bid separately, later this year.
So Steve's recommendation, you said, was,
Steve's
Bid the whole
recommendation
thing,
was to
right?
bid the whole thing.
okay, so that's different, that's, okay.
That's the first recommendation. Second was to do the green with the blue as an alternate.
So that's how, I'm sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
just bear with me. So if you sent this out for bid, you'd say bid the whole thing, then bid the, and then bid the blue?
No.
Okay,
We would either do one or the other. We'd say, we're gonna do this whole thing, give us a price for the whole thing, and we evaluate those bids. Or we go out to the contractors and say, give us a base bid for the green, and then and give us a bid for the blue, and then may or may not do the blue depending on the prices we get.
okay,
Or we may throw the whole thing out. I mean,
okay.
the council always has that option to throw in all.
Right, which is where we were at to begin with. We had a set area that we were gonna bid and then we to see where the pricing was coming in. So having more lanes and reconfiguring things and.
Great, to make the road,
No, I mean, I get where they're coming from. It's just, it's processing and it's a lot of money.
Financially, Chip, is it okay?
I'll tell you that when we get the bids.
Well,
Yeah,
I think,
It's,
and sorry,
it's a big
Forrest,
number.
Yeah, it is.
sorry, not to interrupt, and sorry, Forrest, I'm gonna kind of go around you. Matt, I mean, how many lots do we still have? You said the builders were gonna come back this spring and pick up kind of where they left off. Any sign, or are we still sitting on a bunch of lots out there?
Well, we're at 9, it's down to 8. I continue to get other builders that are asking. We have an application process as well. I check the references, each builder's gotta give 3 references. So we do a little bit of screening, so people are inquiring, but sometimes the application process appears to be deterring some from filling it out, which is fine, that's how you weed some of them out, if they're not gonna put that effort in. But again, it's picking up, I'm taking calls. Again, today, I just sent out a packet of information, an application for another builder out of Des Moines.
Can I ask, where did the application process come from? I guess I didn't know anything about an application process.
Well, it's kind of evolved over time.
So this is something from seed? That's,
Yeah.
so seed
It's the
requires
developer,
them,
Seed requires. Because we
There's some.
burned and we had some near misses that
which is a
have
good
really
thing.
blown up.
yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, I just didn't know anything about it.
Sure, I didn't either. So Forrest, you're talking about a year out, possibly a little bit more before any building could be done, any homes, so hopefully things are kind of turning around by that time and, yeah, I mean.
Fuzzy crystal balls.
Yeah,
It's
I
not.
I know, I'm just scared of what Pat said earlier, buying transformers, it's up to $25,000, like, whoa.
Yeah, but Forrest, didn't you also say that you had a bid letting recently that came in under bid?
Right, so we're
There's
seeing,
some under out there.
Yeah.
Builders.
And we know these are not exact numbers, they're just big, because I'd rather see something as a worst case scenario, and then we're gonna come in under it, instead of saying, well, this is gonna be 2 million, and well, it came in at 4. I'd be more upset that way.
and if it does, then you can say,
Sorry.
sorry,
Like we
we're
did
not.
with the Safe Routes to School the first time, they came back at the same, so it's like, why beat a dead horse?
So I want to add that, like, when I was on the council, when we done the first Wumble 1 and Wumble 2, I do not recall a time where Forrest had to come back and say that we needed more money. So, there never been.
Didn't pay it all, but then the progress and then
Go back.
We're not involved in it.
And you've taken a lot of time, just to kind of give you a shot, you've taken a lot of time, you've come out to seed meetings, I've seen you at several seed meetings, to make sure that they're knowledgeable on this, and then you come up here, you make sure we're knowledgeable. And I definitely appreciate that. Sometimes, this is my first big project, so. So right tonight, are you asking how we would like to have it bid?
One is, is that schedule okay with council to come back, to go out, set bid dates at the March meeting, take bids in April? Is council comfortable with that? And then the second question, Seed asked, I'm looking for council input on bidding the whole thing or doing as a base and alternate, as Seed is recommending.
I mean, if we're gonna do anything, it should be the base and alternate bid, since that's what we originally said to begin with. We wanted it in the base plus 2 alternatives, but
Right.
that's been changed, so.
Then you know the whole thing pretty much, so.
Warren,
I just, I want to clarify. I think C's position was to do it as a bid and an alternate. Our preference is the bid's coming low enough that you can do it all.
Right.
But I think we were recommending base and alternate. And what it really came down to is, were we going to make the green the base or the blue the base? Eric had thrown out that the blue lots are probably going to be the more attractive, easier to sell lots. But when we took into consideration, as Forrest pointed out, we grading for the whole project in order to do the blue, because we need to do the sewer plant, which is way down in the corner there, the lower right corner. So we'd be incurring all those costs anyway, just for the fewer blue lots, plus we have to acknowledge and down North Second. Whereas if we do the green as our base bid, then we can build that new street first, have our concrete trucks come in that way instead of driving all through the existing development. And so even though it was Eric's idea to maybe make the blue bid the base bid, he actually made the motion that we recommend the green be the base bid and the blue be the alternate.
I think Corey had something.
Yeah, Forrest, real quick, down on line 67, engineering, legal, financing, and administration fees. I get your fees there, but what's the legal and administration? What is all that? Because that number that I'm looking at, that's steep. So what do we get for all that that's listed right there?
So we kind of lump that all together, so the financing, eventually there's gonna be, there's legal costs for the plats, for filing, for the financing, there's administrative costs and city expenses that do for publishing and notifications, and if you're just looking for the engineering part of this, if that you're looking at what's that cost, we have I didn't bring that with me, but Ash has our contract, and we have an hourly not to exceed contract, so it's not a definite certain dollar amount, it's not a lump sum. So we have an hourly and we plug in the max that the engineering would be. So it may be something less than that.
So you're saying is, we'll just say it's hourly up until 100,000, and then you just don't go over that. We're not charged
Actually,
after that.
you're not charged after that.
Okay.
BNK eats that. if we
Do
go
whatever
over
that
100,000.
number shall be.
But if we only end up doing 75,000, you only get billed for the hours that we
So
actually.
this was like the max,
Yes,
just through, okay,
yes.
that makes more sense.
Yeah, worst case scenario, okay, that's good.
Okay. I guess my own opinion, I mean, I appreciate what a seed is coming to and giving their recommendations on this, and I appreciate you, Forrest, as well, bringing this. I'm gonna be very honest, I'm pretty nervous about this. I get, Chip told us the last time that to create more revenue, fundage for the street, but I'm getting a lot of kickback off the citizens of the community. Because they walk outside of their front door and their streets are tore up and everything else too. And their money is going to this. The older part isn't getting anything. They're not benefiting anything right now. Maybe it's coming, but right now,
Yeah, but it's not their money. This is being completely financed with TIF.
well, I understand that, but
That's-
do you understand where everybody else is coming from though? They just keep saying, we expand out here. Nothing's happening in the older part of town.
How many blocks did we redo this year? A lot.
A lot,
Resurfacing.
what, 4 or 5?
I wish Jim was here to say.
Yeah, you're about right, 4 or 5.
4 or 5? I mean, are we serious? Well, let's not compare those kind of apples to apples, because that's not even apples to apples. What I'm saying is, this is a lot of money to be biting off, a lot of money, and I'm pretty nervous about it.
I mean, the one perk is we are getting our sewers redone,
That is one perk that I can see.
because I was very
Yes.
adamant about making sure that got done before we even
And
looked.
hasn't TIF paid for quite a few projects in town now? That people may not realize?
The building we're sitting in,
Yeah.
Fire department.
the building,
The bills
Yeah.
are
Swimming pool, the downtown project.
Alex,
and and our assessment rate would not be as low as it is if we hadn't done the first projects, you know, our every year, once we started getting the TIF revenue.
And we're not setting anything in stone by saying, let's get bids. Then we're just getting definite numbers, and then we can say, sorry, let's do
You
it
say
again.
we're
No,
not saying
yeah,
anything definite, let's.
I'm all for it if we want to get
We
better.
are getting bids, correct?
But I said, we're getting definite numbers, that's all, we're not
You're not
saying
committed to
we're
accept.
doing.
And I'm all for that.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
You're right, it is very nerve
That's all we're asking, is next step.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to move forward with the green as the base bid and the blue as an alternative.
All of it.
And can I add on to that, that we do set the bids for March? Bid date?
We don't need that.
You don't need that in there?
No, no,
Okay,
no.
all right.
I just want to make sure if there's some hesitancy from the council, I wasn't gonna break my neck getting these plans and specs done. And then come to council and say, well, we're gonna hold off on this for a year, don't, what did you do that for? So,
We have a
yeah,
motion by Renslow, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Cobal, I give up Patrick,
Yes.
Dolly,
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
Cobal,
Yes.
Renslow.
Yes,
Thanks, Ruth.
Forrest and Chip, thank you very much.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I'm not gonna go into it because I think folks have made it bad enough, but the second page of the handout that I handed out tonight, that reviews some of the kind of fundamental mechanics of TIF. And you're welcome to review that and we can talk about that in future as needed, so.
Thank you, Chip.
Thank you, everybody. I would, evaluation sheet in everyone's packet. You'd like to evaluate me in the middle of the your practice.
Oh, I don't think I got one, actually.
That's it.
It is on the very end.
Are we on public forum?
Yeah, public forum.
Just gonna, I just have one thing. Ash, it was in the department report, but do we need to do anything with fire department's ask? Did you read the department report?
What about it?
Yeah.
There was some pool pass stuff in there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anybody asking that.
Okay, I just wanna make sure. The second thing is I asked for those, department reports for the council, so we knew what was going on. And they're very hit and miss on the police and the rescue side of it. I don't know what we need to do to remind them that it is very important that we get, I mean, for me, it's important that we get those reports. They don't have to be a page, they can be 2 sentences, but just getting those reports, I mean, it's better than them having to come see us every Monday at the council, but for me, I like to see what's going on, and, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I like to see those reports, even if it's 2 sentences.
Okay.
You know, I mean, they're nice to have.
Matt, I got a quick question. What's the status with the hotel? I see vehicles. Are they working on the interior now, or?
Wasn't that in his report?
Yes, he got another general contractor, and
Oh, good.
and, so yeah, he's trying to make some time up.
So,
Go ahead.
so Ashwin, is this for all departments or?
No, just for me.
Oh, just for you?
Yeah, you can fill it out, you can sit with me, talk about it, you can send it to me.
Gotcha,
We need
gotcha.
to fill these out and return them, I don't remember what we decided.
You can to me.
Return them to you and the mayor, and then we're gonna take from there if there's something, but I'll take action if something comes
Just
up.
real quick, I
I'd like to
that's
express
a
it
good point, I just wouldn't need, I know,
I do that with it.
I meant to bring this point, Sunday registered with me, because I get, nobody reads the newspaper anymore, but on the front page of the business section was an article about Hubble Homes, and there were 2 noteworthy things about that. They're building 500 new $300,000 to $400,000 homes on the northeast side of Des Moines, so they apparently think that there's still going to be demand. And they consider those first-time home buyer homes, and our homes are still, I think, a hair under 300,000 generally.
Savannah is still building some that,
But anyway.
also coming in at 270, which is still well under.
So I don't think there'll be any trouble filling those lots. I'll be surprised if the 8 lots that are still available are still there in July, I think. They're framing in February, the houses that are being built
And
now.
what's Hubble selling their lots for?
I don't.
You don't know?
Was the spokesperson for Hubble Real Estate, is Claire Powell. I forgot her married name, but she's quoted throughout the article, so.
So tell her to bring her developer here.
Skills out here, yeah, you bet.
Maybe we can get some townhomes up. Right, man?
Right.
So I just want to, say thank you to the council for having the vision to move the safe routes to school. It's been a couple of years, at least something that Kristen also started prior to maybe, so I'm sure she's happy to see her efforts come to fruition on there, to be a benefit from the city, and I hope the city appreciates it also.
I got a couple of things here. So the code enforcement.
Yes.
So that was only, if you pull the page in half, that's what's on there, because it's the same. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the month of January for $1,000. I don't know if we're getting our bang for a buck on this deal.
If I brought my updated sheets and they didn't.
Is that
I mean-
just what he did in January, or is this the continue, I mean, cause.
Who knows? I mean,
No,
this
no,
is
that's
all
what I'm
we get.
asking, because sometimes there was a list, and he'd have properties that in December that he's still working on sending notices to. Is this just the stuff he started in January, or is it the complete list of what he's been doing in November, December, and January?
And that's the same.
The continuing list?
Right, that is first one.
Yeah.
Yes, no.
Cause I feel like the stuff that we got in January was just the stuff just started in January with the first notice. But there's.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, are we still working on Kingmore properties on South Gaines? Because there is a chain with some cement stairs that were pulled away from the house, just sitting in the middle of the driveway.
I don't know, I'm not supposed to be involved, so.
Yeah.
I don't have the complete list, so I don't know.
That's been up for a while now. Just let them work on it.
Can you tell me on that master list there, is there a property on the 500 block of South Phoenix?
His just looks almost identical to ours, so. No, no, to answer your question,
We
no.
need a better list of what he has going.
Well, I think we need to do a little bit more for our money.
Yeah, can you ask him for the master list of everything he's working on, not just the stuff he started in January?
Yeah.
I think that's where Corey's going with that.
Yeah.
So we don't want just the stuff that's in January, we want the master list given to us that he's working on all properties.
Sure.
And it'd be all right
Yes,
if
Sarah.
he went around town, but he just went down 3 streets.
Well, I think that's what he started in just January, I don't think that's everything that he's working on.
Gotcha.
I think there's more, I think there's a bigger list of what he's started, but
Last,
thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else have anything?